Hey guys, this is WalterFootball.com After Dark show for January 3rd, 2024. We're going to do the Week 18 NFL picks against the spread for the 2023 NFL season. I can't believe we made it all the way to the regular season's end. Hard to believe. It just felt like yesterday when we were excited to do Week 1, but here we are at the end. Joined once again by Jacob Camenker from the Sporting News. Jacob, how are you? And how's your week? How are your weeks 16 and 17? Because I didn't talk to you last week.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Glad to be on here. Week 16 and 17. 16 was all right. I think I went 7-8-1, but Christmas Day was a disaster. I lost, I think, every pick that day. And then I found out I was sick. That's why I wasn't on last week. So I got sick the next day. So it was a disaster. I followed that up by picking the Jets on Thursday, which I'll blame on the fact that I had a fever and wasn't thinking straight. But after that, things got a little bit better. I went 10-6 against the spread last week. I tweeted out a handful of my picks. I didn't give all of them out because I wasn't on the show last week. So I apologize for doing well in a week where that happened. Usually I prefer to do a little worse at that point, but I'll take going 10-6 against the spread. And sorry to have left you hanging last week, but none of you guys would have liked hanging out with me with a fever after in these after dark scenarios, because it would have been a lot of me being like, whoa, is this guy on this team? And going off on tangents. It might have been fun for a bit, but you would have been like, Jacob, just get back to things. So either way, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be healthy and have some energy going into this one. I'm excited to close out the season. I can't believe we're already here, like you said.
Yeah, I feel like Jacob with a fever discussing picks would be fun for everyone except you. It would just be entertaining. But yeah, you would be miserable and I don't want to see you go through that. So it was we actually had a guest booked for last Tuesday as a replacement. And this guest was was super quick to agree, but something happened and just couldn't make it on the show, unfortunately. So I did it solo, but it worked out. Last week I went, so my record wasn't as good overall. I went 8-8, but in the just the picks by themselves, I was up 6 units. Problem was the props, just oh man, they were so bad. I don't know what happened. The props are great to start the year, or when I started them in the middle of the year, and past couple of weeks they've just been bad. So maybe have to kind of reevaluate what I'm doing, or just maybe consider maybe I'm unlucky, because I know 2 of the props missed by a couple yards, and there was another one that was super close as well. So I don't know. I guess it could have been better, but yeah, it's still gonna always have to reevaluate and everything. So definitely going to do that. Happy New Year to Lamont, saying Happy New Year, and also Quacky Takes, Quacky New Year's, guys. Happy New Year's to everyone listening, and also you, Jacob. Rod says Happy New Year's, fellas. Are you guys playing any PGA one and dones? I mean, we did get into PGA. I just learned about this one and done stuff last year. I had no idea what it was to start the year, but now I do. Jacob, are you playing any one and dones?
I have not looked at that far ahead yet, so probably not as of yet, but I might look into that as the week goes along. Stay tuned. I'll probably tweet if I like anyone during the picks, but it might be a little early to get the model going. That's kind of my feeling right now, because I don't think we're going to have the right data because these guys haven't been out there, but that's a stay tuned from me.
Okay. I just learned about the one and done stuff. I know there's some contests out there that pay close to 6 figures, so I might dabble into it. I like I said, I really got into PGA last year. It feels like a little too early to start golf, but then again, it's more betting opportunities, so I guess I can't complain. So yeah, they have a tournament this weekend in Hawaii apparently, so I'm definitely gonna consider it. I just don't know what I'm doing with that yet. Quacky says, I got a fever, only prescriptions, more Jacob.
There we go. Yeah, that's one way to take care of it. Yeah, with a fever, I would have definitely been betting I probably would have been 5 units on the Panthers. So again, good thing that I wasn't here, man.
Be betting on CFL teams against the NFL teams. Walt, I may have topped losing the fantasy title on Drew Brees' stupid kneel down. I'd love to hear. Okay, here we go. I dropped George Pickens before week 15 to pick up Will Levis of all people. My opponent in the finals then picked up and played Pickens as an injury fill-in. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't think it's worse than the Drew Brees kneel down, as you might guess what Chris is saying. I know I was in a league with Chris, and he lost in the fantasy championship because of Drew Brees' kneel downs. Just at the end, just losing those 0.1 points just made him lose. So I don't think it gets any worse than that. Just saying. But this is pretty bad too. So okay, here we go. I lost by 2.16 points. Is the difference between Pickens' late game 24-yard catch on 1st and 10 with 2 minutes left. Not sure why Pittsburgh was passing, but I hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that pass play surprised me that they ran that, just because I assumed they would play more conservative there, because I thought they would lean on their defense, get the stop if they didn't get the first down. But Tomlin right away just took the shot play to Pickens, and it worked. And yeah, that lost you your fantasy league. So I feel bad about that. I think the kneel down would be worse, though, because that's one where you're like, I have this one, and then you lose it because you've lost points. Like, at least that one is the opponent is getting points. I get the scenario behind it is bad, though. It's painful either way, though. So you see that all the time in fantasy. I lost the Sporting News regular season title by 1 point because Jared Goff got a stat correction, I believe. And that was actually, no, I think I lost by 2, but I was trailing by less than 1 point, and I needed like 1 catch, and I couldn't get it. Then the stat correction made it a little less bad.
Yeah, if you're feeling bad, just think about my friend Mike, who we interviewed on the show back 5 years ago now. He was gonna win the $1 million on DraftKings, except the defense, the 2 guys behind him were playing the Chiefs defense, and the Chiefs got a 2-point conversion on a blocked extra point at the end, and 2 guys passed him. So instead of $1 million, he won $40,000. Which is, like 40,000 sounds great, but it's not $1 million. So, and he found this out while he was on a plane, and he didn't have access to a TV. So he assumed it was like one of those errors that they, on the kickoff, sometimes they give the other team a safety, just an error, and then they fix it a minute later. That's what he thought happened. And then he found out the truth. So I think that has to be the worst beat of all time that I've ever heard. At least like, fantasy DFS,
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's ever recovered from that. Like I said, we interviewed him. Kenny and I interviewed him like 5 years ago, but I don't know if he's even still playing DFS. So Mike, let us know if you are out there. All right. So Sloan Right says, I knew Jacob was 6 when he posted on X that he was on JETS. So.
Yeah, I'm using that as the excuse for that pick. I was not in my right frame of mind because I was sick. That's why I went with the Jets. I immediately texted you a meme that I made too, of like the guy smiling as like a train's coming by him and is about to hit him, and I
Right.
labeled the guy me, and like the train is me betting on the Jets in 2023. I swear I've lost every time I bet the Jets. So, we're going to be done with the Jets at this point. Spoiler alert. I've said that like 9 weeks in a row. It's not ever been true, but this time I think we're done for sure.
No, Chris says I did at least survive Lamar in my other league for a win, but that doesn't compare to losing out on $960,000. I would be in a padded room after that. Yeah, you and me both. I've had some bad beats as well. The worst one was, as Jacob knows, last year we lost by I lost by 1 yard on Raymakers. The grand prize was $100,000. I was in first place the entire afternoon, like the late afternoon slate for 3 hours. It was just it said currently winning $100,000, and then at like the final play, I think the Chargers were playing the Cardinals or something. Eckler got 1 yard, and I got passed, and I got second place. So it was a huge loss, as you can imagine. Not 960,000, but it's still pretty bad. So yeah, I'm never gonna forget that one. But anyway, we have week 18 picks to get to. Kind of an interesting week because some teams don't have anything to play for, and we're gonna discuss those. Quacky says I'm in a padded room already, so let's hope that it has some Wi-Fi so you can come on the show on Thursday. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would mean a lot to us. If you really want to help support the show, please hit subscribe, because we're 88 subs shy of 4,000. I would love to get there by the Super Bowl. Maybe I'll go on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and like beg for subs if we don't get there by the Super Bowl. So don't make me beg. Please hit subscribe. If you really want to help to support the show, we have super chats. As I said before, we make below poverty line money here on YouTube ads. So if you just want to hit the super chats, we'll stop whatever we're doing and we'll read whatever you say, and we'll be very happy for it. So all right, let's get to the week 18 picks. Needs our help, so we'll try to help you out. Walt, sell your soul to the Chinese and get the good TikTok viewers. Yeah, it works for the NBA. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. So, all right. So let's get to the first one. There are 2 Saturday games. This is the final divorce package game of the year. Although I guess you could say the playoffs too, but at least the rebuttal for the playoffs. This is the playoffs. This is not the playoffs. The first game in this final divorce package of the year is Steelers at the Ravens. This line opened up. It was Steelers minus 3.5. It's still 3.5. The Ravens don't have anything to play for. They've clinched the number 1 seed, so they may sit the starters. That is why Pittsburgh's favored by 3.5. So, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Ravens here, even despite the fact that they don't have anything to play for themselves. I do think that they might relish an opportunity to knock out the Steelers, though, because it's still a big rivalry game, and the Ravens are still kind of playing for momentum for their depth guys, too. Like Tyler Huntley, we've seen he hasn't been good all the time, but he's been capable at times of keeping his team in the game. So as long as he can distribute the ball a bit and they can run on this Steelers defense, I think that the Ravens offense will do enough to keep this one close. And I know a lot of people will say, well, the Steelers offense has been really good with Mason Rudolph. Since he's come in, they've looked a lot better and more confident. And I agree. That's true. He's probably their best quarterbacking option right now, which sounds insane to say because he's a 6th-year player who's barely found success before. But I would caution throwing everything behind the Steelers just solely because the defenses they've played so far with Mason Rudolph have been the Bengals and the Seahawks. And again, I know they scored 30-plus points in both those games, so maybe they continue to score at a high clip and the Ravens aren't going to play all of their starters. But I'm still worried that enough of the Ravens starters and depth players on defense will be able to slow down the Steelers more than we've seen under Rudolph so far. This is going to be the biggest test for him, I think. So I think getting the 3.5 with the Ravens, where this is a home game, it's still a rivalry game. I still think they're going to be putting their best foot forward, even without Lamar Jackson and those guys probably in the lineup. I still think that there's something for them to play for, more so than some of the other players on the board. And we kind of see this from time to time. I don't know if this checks off the Aurora Snowmo box in full for you, but the Steelers need to win to stay in the playoffs, and now they're favored on the road. This number is close enough to 3 that it's not too scary, but I think the 3.5 makes me want to side with the Ravens. So I'll probably be on the Ravens for a unit. You can maybe convince me to go for 2 if they end up having more of their starters play than we think. Like maybe they say we're going to play them a half and pull them out, but I don't think they'll do that for at least Lamar Jackson because he's missed 5 games in each of the last couple seasons for injuries, but I still think they have the talent needed to keep this close.
Yeah, I think I'm on the Steelers here. Just I just like the Ravens have nothing to play for, obviously, like I said, and they're gonna sit some starters. And we have a question here. G Chuck, does Harbaugh have a history of sitting his starters? He does. And as Kel says, chances the Ravens start some guys for a half, keep in rhythm with the 2-week layoff coming up. Yeah, you could maybe see. I wouldn't surprise me at all if they see the starters for like a quarter or something like that. But like wouldn't include Lamar Jackson in that. I'd be kind of surprised if he started. So you might see like Huntley with some of the starters, and then some of them would check out eventually. I just don't think we're going to see a full effort here from the Ravens, or like at least from the coaching staff to have a game plan. The problem though is that these backups are pretty hungry for playing time, and so they're going to try really hard. So like I'd almost like, if I'm backing the Steelers here, obviously this number sucks, but like if this number were more reasonable, I'd actually rather have the starters in there because the starters would know, but like, okay, this game means nothing, like let's just coast. But like when the backups come in, like you're gonna get a tough fight from them, and so that's why I kind of think you might be on the wrong side, or the right side. But I'm still like inclined to go with the Steelers just because. I've been pretty impressed with Mason Rudolph, like what he's done. I know he's battled some soft defenses, but it's not like we're going to see a tough defense here from Baltimore. And I think they're playing with more confidence. If this were like Trubisky, there's no way I'd be on the Steelers, but I like what they've done overall. Like they've established the run more. Rudolph has gotten the ball to George Pickens more often. And then the defense is going against Tyler Huntley and some backups. So you got to think that like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, they're going to have some big games here. But like I said, this number sucks. Like if this were 2.5, I think I'd have more. I think I'd maybe consider betting the Steelers, but at 3.5, it's a tough sell for me. So, Yeah, just I didn't really think about this one enough. Like I'm like, because you're either betting a bad number with the Steelers or you're taking the backups for Baltimore, which is like both seem unappealing to me. So I'd rather just pass on this game personally. So, I mean, are you actually going to bet this game, or are you just gonna just let this one like slide?
So I am going to bet this, but only because it's a standalone game. If this was a Sunday afternoon game and I didn't know what the plan was for the Ravens, or I knew they were only going to play their starters a little, I wouldn't bet this. So I'm kind of in that camp with you. I think if this number was higher, I would like the Ravens more. Like if this was 4.5 or something, I would probably be saying to myself, all right, now you really need Mason Rudolph to definitely win by a touchdown or 2 field goals or something. And I think that has a harder time happening. But at the same time, like you said, I think if this number is 2.5, I'd probably be on the Steelers because the Ravens could take their foot off the gas, especially late. If they're like, look, we don't have a chance to win. We just want to make sure our guys are healthy. I mean, if the Steelers haven't won, like going in the fourth quarter, they're up 10 points. I don't think the Ravens come back from that, even for backdoor necessity. So, yeah, I will be betting on this game, but I don't necessarily recommend this among the top plays this week.
Yeah, I have no interest in this one. Evan Shear says, "Missed the earlier start, fellas. Some of us have work tomorrow." That's why I say the day in advance, even though it's like right now it's like 11 o'clock. I said January 3rd because I assume most people are going to listen to this on the day after. So maybe you can listen after on the way to and from work. Does Harbaugh have history sitting starters? Yeah, we answered that one. This is a 90-man roster. This is not a 90-man roster like in college. They can only sit 7 guys. So they can make 7 guys inactive, but like they don't have to play everyone. Like some of the active players don't really play that often. So yeah, you're gonna see like a lot of special teamers play like more snaps on offense and defense. So it's not only 7 guys who are gonna be sitting. It's gonna be more than that. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, you figure like Lamar Jackson probably sits, Ronnie Stanley will probably sit, like Odell Beckham Jr. All these like veterans who have had some injury history are going to be among those inactives. And then, like you said, you have more of the guys sit. So you're probably, yeah, you're gonna have some of the starters out there, but really they're not gonna play a full complement of snaps. They're gonna let the special teamers and practice squad call-ups do that. So you're dead right about that.
Yeah. Chris saying, don't all Ravens Steelers games land on 3? I also wonder if the Ravens will be annoyed about their fluke loss to Baltimore in week 5. Yeah, I mean, most of them land on 3, but this is kind of a different circumstance where the Baltimore is not game planning for this game, and you're going to have backups. So like, I don't know if that still applies. It could. But most games are close. They're like not necessarily 3-point games. Of course, the public is going to be 8 for Baltimore at the moment, which is always concerning. Yeah, there's like 90% of money on Baltimore. It's kind of nuts. That's kind of like one of the reasons why I'm on the Steelers, because like Baltimore is a public dog here, but that could change. Kel says kind of feels like a 16-13 game. Yeah, I can see that. With the bye, the Ravens won't play until the 20th or 21st. If he sits Jackson, it's 3 weeks between stars. Yeah, we've seen that before though. Like I've in the past, coaches have sat guys with a bye coming up, so. It won't be anything new. So like I said, maybe he plays a quarter or something. But actually, I think, like I said before, I think that's worse because you're not going to see Lamar Jackson really prepare for this game. Like he knows it means nothing. So it's kind of like just going through the motions and everything. And like I said, I'd rather see the starters with a better number than the backups with a worse number.
And in 2019, Lamar Jackson did not play the final game of the season, and it's eerily similar circumstances to this one. He's most likely going to win the MVP award for this season. The Ravens already have the number 1 seed locked up. So I think John Harbaugh is going to look at it and say, well, I could play Lamar Jackson and give him some reps and keep him fresh, or I could guarantee that he's going to be healthy for this playoff game. And I think 10 times out of 10, he's going to say, I need him healthy in the playoffs. So what if he has a rusty quarter coming out of it?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's good to have a history there, so we know that he sat the starters in 2019. Quacky says, will they sit more or fewer players in Florida State? Well, yeah, Florida State didn't play anyone. I love the people on Twitter like, oh, look, proves the Florida State shouldn't have been in. Like, well, yeah, of course, Florida State sat everyone. Like, none of the players played. Like, of course they got blown out.
That's how you know when people don't have the awareness of what's actually going on. Because I saw a bunch of people saying that, like, oh, this team, they wanted this team in the playoffs. I'm like, well, actually, they had 25 people transfer out and like several other people out with injuries. So I don't know what you expected them to do against Georgia. Like, I don't mind that Bama was chosen, as we've been over on the show, but like don't use that game as a like, oh, they made the right choice. That was not even remotely indicative of how Florida State played all season.
Yeah, it's I wanted to respond to people. I'm like, it's just like you just won't understand what I'm saying if you say this. Evan says, "Well, you're correct. I'll listen next morning on the work. Great listen to start the day. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so that's awesome. That you listen on the way to work." Gerald says, "Baltimore preseason record. This is a rivalry as well." Yeah, so I mean, yeah, like you're gonna see the backups play hard, like I said. But they're not gonna play their starters, so. It's gonna be a different sort of game where the Pittsburgh's desperate, and I wouldn't count this as Aurora Snowmo because the Ravens are not eliminated from the playoffs. So the Aurora Snowmo, which we'll get into, there are 4 Aurora Snowmo games this week. It's when a team needs to win and they're playing against a team that's been eliminated. Usually the team that's eliminated usually covers like 3/4 of the time. So yeah. Evan, Chris says, "Yeah, Evan, you should listen to them at work and force all your coworkers to listen." Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You tell Chris that's a good strategy. I like it. All right, and then tell him to hit subscribe so it gets to 4,000. All right, so the second game in the divorce package is Texans at the Colts. This was Colts -1.5 to open. It was Colts -1 this morning when I wrote up this pick. Now Houston's favored by 1. Not that makes a huge difference, but still, Houston now favored on the road in this must-win for both teams. The winner has a good chance to win the division. If the Jaguars lose, they win the division. If not, there's a decent chance that they'll be the 7th seed. The Colts definitely the 7th seed. The Texans maybe. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Texans here. The line movement makes me a little more confident in them because I imagine that sharp money moving the line. It boils down to me. I can either trust CJ Stroud going up against a weak defense that he shredded all the way back in week 2. I think he threw for like 384 yards and multiple touchdowns in that game in his second start. And everyone was kind of like, wow, that was pretty impressive. But they lost because Anthony Richardson got like 2 early scores before he left with injury. So I can either trust that offense or I can trust the pretty efficient and balanced Gardner Minshew-led offense that the Colts have operated with in recent weeks. And, Minshew's done a good job, but he doesn't have the same explosive playmaking ability as Stroud. And the Texans' defense is better than the Colts. The Colts have been leaky at times. I think they're overrated because of this. Like, their offense has been, when Minshew hasn't turned the ball over, they've been pretty efficient, and that's kept them in a lot of games. But their defense has been leaky, and when they don't generate turnovers, they're a real problem for the team. Now, maybe they could force CJ Stroud into mistakes, but Stroud only has 5 interceptions this year, which is insane for this time of year for a rookie quarterback. I know he missed a couple games due to the concussion, but even so, he's demonstrated an ability to avoid turnovers. So I just think this isn't a good matchup for the Colts defense against Stroud. So we're not having to pay a 3 in this one. Like, I know the Texans are favored on the road, so that doesn't seem like the greatest thing in the world, but I think it just speaks to the fact that they're the better side right now. Their roster is better balanced. They have what I think is a better defense than the Colts. Colts are opportunistic, but they can give up a lot of yards. So I'm willing to back the Texans here. I don't know that I'm going to bet this one, though, because I'm just a little afraid of what happens if CJ Stroud has his first game where we're like, oh yeah, he is a rookie, in this spot. Maybe the pressure gets to him a bit, but I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, I'm going to be on the Texans here, but I'm not sure I'm going to bet this one. What are you thinking here?
It's just a kind of a tough one for me too. I like the Texans a little bit. I'm not in love with this because I feel like the Texans are a little overrated. Like they've had trouble beating teams at home that weren't very good. Like, for example, they beat Arizona at home by 5. Like, it felt like they should have won by more than that. And I know that Arizona just beat Philadelphia, but first of all, Philadelphia has its own problems, and second, that was one of Kyler Murray's first games, so it wasn't like he was completely in rhythm yet. I know they just clobbered the Titans, but again, the Titans aren't that good, and some of the other close games are they beat Denver by 5, and I know they covered the spread in that game, but Denver wasn't that good and they were overrated. They lost to the Jaguars at home, and we've seen the Jaguars since. The Jaguars have only won 1 game since then. They beat Tampa by 2 at home. I know they're missing a kicker, and they lose to Carolina on the road before that. So they've had some of these bad results, but I still kind of like them just because I fear the matchup for Gardner Minshew. As you said, like it seems like this is a bad matchup for Minshew because the Texans can take away the run. Texans have been really good against the run this year, which has been like a pretty stark contrast to how they played before, where like Derrick Henry used to always rush for 200 yards against them, and now they just really shut down the run. And so if they stop Jonathan Taylor, you're going to have Minshew having to throw the ball a lot, and we've seen Minshew in matchups where he can't rely on the run, and he just like has a meltdown sometimes. Like the second Jaguar game, the Jaguars are really good against the run, so they stop whatever the Colts doing on the ground, and then Minshew threw like a billion interceptions in that game. So like I feel like the same thing could happen here, but then again, like I said before, the Texans team is a little overrated, I think. So like backing them as road favorites seems wrong. Like it almost seems like the Colts +1 are the sharp side, but the sharps aren't betting this game. This is all public money. As Chris says, 95 now it's like 95% of the public money is on the Texans. Like it's insane amount of money from the public, but there's no sharp pushback on the Colts. So yeah, like I'm still at Texas -1 just because I think it's the right side, and this is going to be like a pretty small bet, but I'm not excited to bet this one.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like I agree with you that the Texans are slightly overrated. The thing that makes them more appealing is the quarterback has more upside. That's really it. And I think their defense is better, like I said, but it's really a toss-up game, and I think that both sides are a little overrated. Like if things had broken a little bit differently, these teams both might not be in line to make the playoffs. So yeah, I think this isn't super exciting. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at scores and odds right now for their money breakdown. It's 95% of the public is on Stroud, but it says 98% of the money. So there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of potential sharp money in there. We don't know. So yeah, the fact that there's no sharp pushback though on a 95% game just kind of indicates like the sharps don't want this one. They know that there's no real value at this. This is just kind of a crapshoot. So I might put a unit on the Texans because it's a standalone, but I would definitely not recommend betting this game.
Yeah, or the sharps could be waiting for a better number. If they may be hoping for a 3, as as unlikely as it seems, maybe that's what they're hoping for. Like they don't need to bet every game either, so they could just be like, okay, let's see where the public money drives this line. If it goes to 2.5, maybe they'll put some phantom money on the Texans to move it to 3, and then get Colts +3 or something. Not sure if they want to do that, but Colts +3 would actually like sound pretty decent. I think if this were Texans -3, would you like the Colts?
I think I would probably be leaning towards the Colts on that one for sure. I might consider that.
Yeah.
It's so tough because I like Gardner Minshew fine as a backup, but like this seems like a really big spot in which to back him. And he, like you mentioned, that Jaguars game, he could just have one of those games where if there's no running game, he makes too many risky throws and he throws a couple of picks and that swings the game. So there's a lot of risk in trusting him. And I got to say this, in the year of the backup quarterback, is there a backup that we have talked about less than Gardner Minshew for his like performance? Like I feel like he started like every week since Anthony Richardson goes out, and we've all just been kind of like, yeah, Gardner Minshew's there.
You kind of almost forget that he's a backup. It's just because he's been there for so long.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like we're just like, he's there. He's been fairly steady. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been absolutely terrible though. So we're all just kind of like, yeah, you do your thing, Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, he was terrible in those like 2 games where he started right away, and like that one game against the Jaguars that I mentioned. But then he's kind of just become steady, as you said. Just a pretty nondescript guy. He just basically just hands the ball off to Taylor all the time. But yeah, I mean, he did almost lose to the Patriots in Germany. There's that. I don't know. It just matchup wise, I like Houston here. If this were 3, then maybe the Colts. But yeah, until it gets to 3, I like Houston. Just not very excited about this one. Chris says Colts are undefeated on, I guess, spread on Saturday since hiring Jeff Saturday. I don't know if that's true or not. I just read it. I'm just like I'm like Anchorman. I'm just reading stuff.
I think it is true. I do think that's true.
Okay, well, good to know. Sumarai says, I sure would like to know Quacky likes the Colts again, so maybe Quacky can respond to that. Colts eviscerated Houston in week 2. It was 31-10 before letting up at the end. Minshew filled in well after Richardson left and no Taylor. Yeah, I remember that game. that was the game where like the Texans struggled against the run, or I think that was before they improved the run defense. So I think it's going to be different this time.
Yeah, they could not stop Zach Moss in that game. And I
Yep.
remember I remember texting you, being like, "What's going on? Like, this is parallel universe."
Yeah, it was. I remember Zach Moss going off. But yeah, their run defense is so much better now. DeMeco Ryans has done a really good job with that defense. So, at least against the run, they've been pretty bad against the pass, as we saw with Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper. Jacob, put money on game tying, much higher payout.
I don't want this game to tie though, because it makes the playoff scenarios that I have to track on Sunday a nightmare. So I would consider doing that maybe, but I really don't want this to tie because it makes my life harder.
Yeah, no one wants to see a tie. That's the saying. Like, tying is like kissing your sister. Like, I don't know. You're like Jamie Lannister maybe, but like, I don't know. It just seems. Gerald Jones says Sharps already teased Texans on the opener. Sometimes this line move when it goes to like Colts 1, Texas 1, like sometimes like that is teaser movement, but I'm not sure if that's the case here. And then Chris says, yeah, they're 2-0. Very irrelevant stat. You're welcome. I figured it was pretty irrelevant. I mean, they did play last year. What they did have a Saturday slate, full Saturday slate, right? Because of Christmas or New Year's, like falling on those days, I think so. They at least had one game. So, all right, let's get to the Sunday slate, as I can't for some reason access this. Here we go. All right, so the first game on the Sunday slate is Falcons at Saints. This line opened up Saints -4. It got bet down to 3, and this is, I can tell you for sure, this is sharp action coming in on Atlanta. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, the Sharps were on the Falcons last week, which I thought was weird. This week, it makes a lot more sense to me. I think these two teams are evenly matched. I think people are eager to back the Saints because we all know that fantasy football people do not like the Falcons because Arthur Smith refuses to give his talented players the ball. So people really just don't want to see them go to the playoffs because they've been a nightmare all year and Arthur Smith has some serious problems. But at the same time, the Saints and Dennis Allen also have some problems there. And I don't think that the Saints are going to run away with this game. Yeah, they beat the Buccaneers, but they don't match up as well with the Falcons as they do with the Buccaneers. We saw this earlier in the season. The Falcons, I think, beat the Saints pretty handily. And AJ Terrell can just work to help take away Chris Olave. And then after that, if Alvin Kamara is not fully healthy, and I think he left early last week with an injury, so we're going to have to monitor that. But if Kamara is out and Olave is being covered by AJ Terrell, Derek Carr is going to have to find a way to move the ball. And that just seems like a recipe for disaster, even against the Falcons defense that has some weaknesses. I think that their secondary will be able to find a way to make some plays, maybe force Carr into some interceptions, because I think Jesse Bates had a pick 6 on him earlier in the year, and that was with a fuller complement of weapons there. So all that's to say, like how the Falcons defense matches up with the Saints offense. I can't say that I love Atlanta's offense because every time I think they're turning the corner about getting their best players the ball, they don't do it. I mean, Tyler Algier had a 75-yard receiving touchdown last week, which is great. But if you put Bijan in that situation and give him that screen, I think he also would have scored, and maybe in a more impressive fashion. So, I think that the Falcons can win this game. I think they match up well with the Saints. So where we're getting the 3, and in some cases, at least when I looked earlier, the 3.5, I definitely like the Falcons here. I might consider betting on this one. I've been burned by them a few times, though, so I have a 0 on here right now, but it could go up to 2 units. If Alvin Kamara is out for this game, I'm definitely going to bet the Falcons, though, because I think that the Saints without Kamara are going to have a lot of trouble moving the ball.
I like Atlanta more so than you. And I think the Sharps were a week early on the Falcons. Kind of like we saw earlier in the year remember when they were betting the Broncos like pretty heavily, like that week 2 game against the Redskins, like they're all over the Broncos. Like we didn't understand why. Because we're like, because we like the Redskins, and then it turned out they were wrong. But eventually they were right against Denver. It's just like they were early, and it just feels like that's kind of like a trend with the Sharps. Like they know where they see good value, but like sometimes the value doesn't quite represent itself until it kind of plays out. And I think that's the case here. And I assume that they were on Atlanta because Atlanta had a ton of injuries a few weeks ago, and then everyone is healthy. Like they had a clean injury report last week for the first time in a while. But like The problem is like they were getting a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen back from injury, and like those like bigger players tend to take some time to get to like 100% coming off injury, and I think they kind of like assume that like David Onyemata, for example, in his first 2 games back would kind of be himself, and he wasn't. Like he's struggled the past 2 weeks, but like as a bigger player, that's kind of like you'd expect that, and now in his third game back, like there's a better chance that he plays well. And the same goes for the Atlanta offensive linemen. So I think we're going to see a better Atlanta team here, and they're playing in the division. You don't have to worry about that crazy stat about like NFC South teams outside of the division. They're finished 16-8 and 28 against the spread, by the way. Here they played against the Saints, where I think they match up really well against the Saints. I mean, you talked about Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. Like, even if Kamara plays, I feel like it doesn't really matter because Atlanta's kind of built to take away Kamara and Olave, because against Kamara they have Onyemata back, so their run defense is going to be better, and I think that they should be able to do a good job against the run. And then against Chris Olave, he has to go against AJ Terrell, and Olave doesn't seem to be 100% either. So Atlanta being able to take away the two biggest pieces of the Saints offense, I think, is huge. And then Atlanta's offense is getting the ball more to Bijan Robinson. And so it kind of bodes well against the Saints. I think the Saints have been pretty weak against the run, against like teams that can really run the ball. You know, like last week they stopped Rachaad White pretty well, but the Buccaneers don't have a great rushing attack. Like White's a good receiver out of the backfield, just not like a great runner. But like 2 weeks ago against Kyren Williams, they couldn't stop Kyren Williams. So like against these stronger run offenses, like they've struggled. So I think the Saints match up poorly against Atlanta. We saw it earlier. Atlanta beat them like pretty convincingly, and I think they should be able to do that again. I think the spread's too high. I made the spread. I think I made it like Atlanta -2, or sorry, Saints -2. Yeah, that's what I made it. So yeah, we get a win and a push with both threes. So yeah, sign me up for Atlanta. I like them quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I think I'm right there with you. I think that this is a good spot for them. So I'm just mad that the Falcons didn't beat the Panthers a couple weeks ago, because they would have been positioned to win the division this week if they won. So I mean, when they look back and do a post-mortem of this season, if they don't make the playoffs, I think the glaring answer is obviously they didn't have quarterback play, but then there's going to be a lot of pressure on Arthur Smith if he retains his job. And sounds like that's the direction they're leaning in right now, but we'll see if the tide changes at all.
Yeah. So we have some comments here. Let's see here. Evan says, let's get to 4K subs, guys. Let's help Walt achieve this milestone. Please subscribe. Yeah, please do that. Thanks, Evan, for saying that. Chris says, FY, your site has been very wonky lately, crashing more often than Caitlyn Jenner. Buckle up, buckaroos. Love the South Park reference. Yeah, the site has had more ads. I think they're trying to capitalize on the Christmas stuff. Like I'm not in control of like how many ads are on the site. Like I could tell the ad team to like slow it down with the ads. The problem though is, like I've said this before, the NFL draft night is the biggest night of the year for revenue, and we got $0 on draft night because the site was down, and so like we've been behind like financially. So I'm like begging for super chats here. Like we've been pretty behind financially. It's been like awful, to be honest. And so like I kind of told them to make up for it. You have to kind of crack up the ads. What you can do to compensate for that, you can get the ad free version of the site. I know it's like $8 a month, and you're paying you're paying for stuff that's already free. Like maybe feels bad, but I can assure you, if you haven't tried the ad free version of the site, like it's super fast. The site doesn't crash at all. Nothing slows down the site. Everything loads instantly. It's just it's just there for $8 a month. So we don't charge for content, and I feel like there is like you have to deal with something, like if you watch a TV show, you have to deal with that, like commercials, unless you DVR it. And I don't know, and but I feel like with these subscription services, like for Hulu Plus, for example, I don't know if that like comes with commercials, but I assume it doesn't. So if you pay for premium, you don't get ads, and I think that's kind of the same thing. So it sucks that the site's crashing, but there's nothing that we can really do. Just to be honest, we have to pay people. Like it just sucks. But it's the nature of the beast. So Mike says Bolton, the hairy alien mustache is gone back to outer space. Yeah. By the way, have you noticed that ever since the alien mustache left the planet, that Bijan Robinson is getting the ball more? Jacob, I think that Kenny needs to acknowledge that I was right about this.
Yeah, I think you might be. I think that there's something to that, man.
I know. Right says might be last time to bet on the Falcons on the tutelage. Don't call me Arthur. Call me Art Smith. Should be mesmerizing wager. Yeah. I might. I don't know. I think he's going to come back next year. I have a feeling that he's going to be back. Especially if they have a chance to make the playoffs here. Really, I mean, if they win this game and the Buccaneers lose, they'll be in. So if they get in the playoffs, I don't think he's going to get fired. Atlanta isn't built to come back multiple scores, but this feels like a tight one that the Falcons could win 20-7. Yeah, Young going cool. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a close game too. I think it's gonna be decided by like 3 points or something. Chris says the Sharps haven't had their best year. I blame legalized gambling. Yeah, they've had a rough year, but like they lost so much money on the Broncos and Patriots. So if you take away those two teams, they've actually done pretty well. It's just like those two teams really got to them. I don't know what they saw at the Patriots earlier, but I saw the same thing. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Is there anything to this? Like, do you think there's any trend going forward where the Sharps aren't as good, or do you think this is just kind of a down year for them?
I think it's just a down year for them. Think about how unpredictable this season has been, and with all the backups in, like we're on pace for a new record number of starting quarterbacks this year again. And I get that the season's a week longer, but anytime you have those backups coming in, the coordinator changes, you have to like kind of make anticipations about. But like we thought that the Patriots were going to be better earlier in the season because their defense had the personnel to play well, but their offense just didn't make the strides we had hoped. So I think you look at it like that, and then Denver's defense just took way longer to come together than people thought. So I think this just ultimately ends up being a down year because of factors out of their control. But the lines are going to be tighter because of the legalized gambling. So there aren't going to be maybe as many lines that the Sharps can pound. But I don't think that's going to impact them too much.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a professional bettor in Vegas when I was there. And he was telling me how much of an advantage he used to have. But like now everyone has access to the information. And he's like, he even said that he barely bets the NFL anymore, like maybe 1 or 2 games a week. Whereas like before he used to bet the NFL heavily. It's just like he felt like the advantage was gone, which is like kind of sad to hear. Like on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like it is nice that more people have access to the information. So, yeah, Camaro on my fantasy team as well. Sorry to hear about that. Let's see here. So Chris asking, do the Falcons still win the division with the win and Bucs lost to Carolina? Yes. The winner of this game wins the division if the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers. The Saints can still get into the playoffs if they win this game and the Buccaneers win, but they need some other stuff to happen. Chris has figured a lot of increase in ads because of that truly unfortunate situation with the site crashing in the Northern Draft. Yeah, it was devastating, man. It was like horrible. Like I said, that's our biggest financial night of the year, and we got $0 from it. Just like it wasn't even like with that COVID year when we had like 60% the decrease in ads just because no one is advertising. Like this is 100% decrease because like there were no ads. Like there's no site. So Steve says more ads, yes please. Johnny Pastrana says Seahawks have a good secondary. Bengals had the 49ers to 17 on the road. Yeah, Seahawks do have a good secondary for sure. That Bengals game happened a long time ago, though.
We're at the 49ers without Debo and Trent in that game, too.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot different. Chris saying will be interesting to compile stats this year, particularly in relation to backup quarterbacks' performances against the spread. Yeah, I mean, I'll maintain this. Like backup quarterbacks have done well ATS unless they've been playing a top 10 defense, in which case like they've done poorly. Yeah, Jason confirming, and then Johnny says Lamar Jackson's lifetime record versus Steelers is 2-4 with 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Yeah, he had a horrible game against the Steelers earlier, but it doesn't really apply because he's not going to be playing. Yeah, Lamar won't play. So all right, let's get to the next game. We have is Browns at the Bengals. So this game opened up Bengals -4.5. It's gone all the way up to 6. I think it's because of news or at least speculation saying that the Browns aren't going to be playing the starters again. So the Browns are locked into the 5 seed. They have absolutely nothing to play for. So with that in mind, who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Bengals here for that reason. I don't love the number we're getting because it's you're giving up the key number of 6 here, kind of. So, but I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, the Browns are probably going to sit Joe Flacco, and that means we're going to have to watch because Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I believe, is on IR. Their other 2 quarterbacks are PJ Walker, who they have already tried to start this year and it did not go well, and Jeff Driscoll, apparently. So that's kind of, I didn't even know he was still playing quarterback. He was tight end a couple of years ago. So, hey, guess he's back in the saddle as a QB. But fact of the matter is, those 2 dudes are going to be going against the Bengals team that, they're playing for pride at this point and to build some momentum for next year. They were not that far out of the playoff race. Got off to a slow start and then kind of had to navigate with life without Joe Burrow, which, went better than I think most people expected it would. But they just had too many holes to overcome this year. But I think they're going to take this as an opportunity to kind of solidify, like, hey, we're going to finish the season strong. We're going to get pass rush pressure behind an offensive line that will probably be starting a lot of backups on PJ Walker and just force him into mistakes, while Jake Browning should be able to move the ball against this Cleveland defense because they're probably not going to play Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and those guys much if they play them at all. Now, if Cleveland changes their tune and is like, no, we want to keep our guys out there for at least a half, then I probably would kind of avoid this one. But I think if the Browns do sit their primary starters, I think that this is going to be a situation where the Bengals have a pretty big advantage. So I'm willing to back them here. I'm not sure I'm going to bet this. I've got 0 to 2 units on it right now. If the Browns sit a lot of their stars, I'm going to want to bet probably the 2 units on this one because I think the Bengals will also be motivated because the Browns have kind of had their number in recent years. Like, they have been their kryptonite. So I think they might view this as like an opportunity to get, it's some measure of revenge for us where we could say, hey, we've beaten this Browns team just to get kind of the monkey off their back type deal. So I'm going to be on the Bengals here. But like I said, we'll see who sits for the Browns and if Kevin Stefanski changes his mind about anything.
I just my recommendation is just like not to bet this game, just because, like, on one hand you have to bet Jake Browning to win by more than 6 points, which is just like very unappealing to me. On the other hand, if you take the Browns, you're going to be betting on backup quarterbacks and backup players, and I assume it's just going to be backups. Like, I don't know, maybe it's going to be a Brandon Staley's type situation where Staley, like last year, played all of his players for no reason in a meaningless game. But I doubt that happens, especially like after Mike Williams got hurt last year. I think that Staley got a ton of flack from that game and really should have been fired after that and blowing the lead to the Chargers or the Jaguars the week after. So, I think we're going to get backups here. And that means, Jake Browning -6 is just, it kind of sucks. Again, this is kind of like the Steelers-Ravens game where you either get a bad line or you have to bet backups. And just don't want to do it. So I'm gonna complete pass on this for me. Maybe there are gonna be some props out there that I'll like, but even still, like, it's kind of hard to tell like what you're gonna get from the Cleveland backups. I assume once again, like, the backups are gonna play hard. So like the Bengals winning by more than 6 is no given. Like, granted, they're playing against far worse competition, but like, these guys are going to be playing. They're playing for jobs. Like, they want people to notice them, especially it's last game of the season. So like, they want to be like, many of them are, I assume, are going to be in the free agent market. So or at least, like, not, if not this year, the next year. So they'll want to get noticed, and they're going to go all out. So it's not a given that the Bengals are just going to cover because it's the backup. So yeah, again, I'd be careful with this. And I just really have no interest in this game.
Yeah, I think my only interest is going to be if I know all the Cleveland top guys are going to sit this one out, just because I do think Jake Browning specifically has a lot to play for. And I think the Bengals offensive playmakers should reward him for, the job he's done in place of Joe Burrow as kind of an audition to play elsewhere, I would think, or an audition to say, hey, the Bengals are in control of his contract because he's an exclusive rights free agent. But I think that's the reason I might consider betting the Bengals, but I don't blame you for not liking this one because there really isn't line value. Like, I anticipate that if the Browns sit all their backups, the Bengals win by a touchdown, but there are much better games out there.
Yeah, for sure. I like a lot more on the slate. Chris saying, "Are the Bengals 8-8?" Yeah, I didn't adjust the record. Feels like the game they'll want to win to keep momentum next year. Agreed with 100% with Captain Camenker. Yeah, I think in a case where like teams are 8-8, like getting to 9-8 makes sense. And like usually when a team knows its coach is going to be back and everyone's going to be back, like I think it's more likely that they'll build for momentum. Whereas like if they knew their coach was going to be fired, then they wouldn't. So I agree with that. Johnny saying actually Harbaugh hasn't made up his mind. He might have LJ in there for a few times to keep sharp. It could happen, sure, but I think that he was kind of like he might have been messing around with the media and just like kind of trying to keep his players sharp, like maybe preparing for the game or something like that. I don't know. It like there is a long layoff, so like maybe he just wants his players to be like in the same routine or something like that, and that's why he's kind of like telling them, "Oh, you might play, just get ready," and then he won't. So I'd be kind of surprised if they actually play. But then again, I guess it could happen. I just think he's messing around. Browning auditioning for starting job elsewhere here. Bengals get this one for the rivalry too. Yeah, I mean that makes sense too. You're right. It's just like they have to win by more than 6. It's an ugly number, but I don't know. Maybe it's that for a reason. And the sportsbooks don't want you to bet the Bengals. I will say this: the public money is on Cleveland, so maybe that's the case. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid of this number. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people love that Cleveland team, and I think they don't realize that they really don't have anything to play for yet, or they don't realize who the backup is. Which, I don't like to hate on PJ Walker because he was so great in the XFL in 2020, but he hasn't looked like the same player that was kind of okay in Carolina for a bit. He's just not the same high caliber backup he looked like at one point.
Yeah, I always love Phil Walker. He won me a GPP on DraftKings and XFL, so always gonna be a fan of him. That was fun, by the way. I love that. There's so much overlay in that in XFL DraftKings. All right, so next we have Jets at Patriots. The line opened up Patriots -2.5. It's still sorry, open up -2. It's 2.5 now. I have some sad news to report here. It sounds like Zach Wilson's not going to play. And I was really looking forward to this matchup once again, where Belichick has owned Zach Wilson. So it doesn't sound like we're going to get that. So with that in mind, who do you like here?
That would have been a beautiful thing to see Belichick close his Patriots tenure playing Zach Wilson, or potentially close. We don't know that he's gone, but with the buzz, if that was his last game, was the Patriots dominating the Jets with Zach Wilson at quarterback, that would be very fitting, I think. I do like the Patriots here, though. Even with Zach Wilson not playing, because of the potential for this to be the end of the Bill Belichick era. Now, I know you just mentioned that under normal circumstances, if a team knows their coach is gone, they might not play hard for him, but this is abnormal. Like, Bill Belichick has been a staple of New England for years and years, and his players do love and care for him, and I think they want to send him out in style with a win. In this spot, in a winnable game, I would imagine. So they're going to put forth way more effort in this one, I would think, than the Jets, because the Jets' goose is cooked. It's been cooked for several weeks, and we just saw the Browns completely destroy their defense in the first half with Joe Flacco. And I have no delusions that Bailey Zappi is going to do the same thing, but I think Ezekiel Elliott will be able to run the ball on them. And so long as Zappi doesn't make any crushing turnovers like he did early against the Bills, I think the Patriots can kind of pull away from the Jets a little bit. Maybe not a huge blowout style victory, but I just have trouble imagining the Jets scoring a lot. And I think the Patriots can find a way to kind of score a lot more than the Jets will in this one. So we're getting the 3 with the Patriots. I'm good backing them here for a couple of units. I just think that the motivational edge really favors them, and the Jets just have nothing to play for. I know Robert Saleh is going to be back next week, but I think the defense is kind of checked out at this point, just because they know they're very talented. They know they kept this team afloat as long as they could for basically 2 years. The offense just hasn't given them really any signs of hope. So yeah, I'll back the Patriots here.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Just this is another game where I don't have like much conviction here. But I don't know. Like at the same time, I think I don't want to overreact to what we saw on Thursday night, where the Jets got blown out by the Browns. The Browns are a really good team, and the Jets were playing on just 3 days of rest. And we know that the superior team is just a team that you want to back on Thursday nights. And so I just think that Cleveland had a big advantage. And then the week before, the Jets were way up on Washington, where like at the end, the Redskins came back because, like, well, first of all, the Jets just took the foot off the gas with the game coming up on Thursday. And second, you had Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback they didn't game plan against, like a much better quarterback than Sam Howell. So, like, just take away the Browns game and, like, just, I mean, I kind of remember that the Jets played hard against the Redskins, and, like, the Redskins and Patriots are on the same level. We saw them play a tight game earlier during, like, the middle point of the season. So, like, I feel like the Jets could win this game. I like Brees Hall against a Patriots defense that I think I think they allow a decent like yardage to receiving backs. I think that Brees Hall could have a good game. But then again, like Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's gonna have a good game as well. The Jets also allow a ton of receiving yards to running backs. So I feel like the team that runs the ball better is gonna like probably win this game, and I think that might be the Patriots. I also made this line Patriots minus 4.5. That might be an overreaction to that Thursday night game. So I could be off on that, but the Patriots defense has been better than the Jets defense, and I think that would have been crazy to say in the midpoint of the season, back when the Jets were, to quote Robert Saleh, embarrassing good quarterbacks at home. But things have changed a lot, and the Jets have been really bad against the run. So this could be just an Elliott game where he has like 100 total yards or something like that, and 2 touchdowns, and Patriots win like 14-9 or something like that. But I think this game is gonna be close. So I don't really want to go backing the Patriots here, just because like they're still a bad team, and you're gonna ask Bailey Zappi to succeed against this Jets secondary, which is still really good. Yeah, just again, no interest in betting this game, but I'm gonna side with you on this one.
Yeah, my number one concern is Bailey Zappi against that Jets secondary. Like, that is scary enough to me that I would consider not betting this one. But I just think that the Patriots players are going to be super motivated for Bill Belichick and just trying to win this game. And they know it's winnable too. And they've had some like closer games. I mean, they almost beat the Bills last week. Like, not really almost, but they kept it much closer than people anticipated against them. So I just think they have a matchup advantage against the Jets, even without Zach Wilson playing, because Trevor Siemian moved the ball okay against the Browns, but he still had that one critical pick that was returned for a touchdown. So, yeah, I like the Patriots here, but I don't blame you for sitting this one out. This is 2 bad teams, and, Patriots could also just not show up if they wanted to not do that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame either team for not showing up, but we do know that for sure. We know that one coach is coming back, and that's Robert Saleh. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Belichick could still be back, but I guess they haven't really made that announcement yet. G Chuck saying, if you want free money in the NHL, bet the Oilers versus any opponent and over under to go over 4.5. They're 32-3 going over 4.5. Free money, basically. Okay. Well, as soon as I start doing that, they're going to keep going under. I know that's going to happen. It feels like that. Like with our luck this year, that'll happen. But yeah, I'll at least try it. Mike saying Zach Wilson not going to play. Do you mean ever again? Sure, the Jets wouldn't mind that. I think Zach Wilson has potential. I think he really needs to be coached up, though. Like, if you were to go with a sharp coach like Sean McVay, for example, or Greg Olson, I think that they could get the most out of him. Or like Dave Canales, for example. Like he has like untapped potential. It's just like he has trouble seeing the field. Like, a lot of it's mental with him. But I think that he could like eventually be a decent quarterback in the NFL. Like that wouldn't shock me. Probably not. Like, if I were to if I had to guess, I'd say probably not. But I think there is potential there.
Yeah, he needs a change of scenery more than anyone else. I would love to see him go to if Tampa Bay retains Baker Mayfield, if they brought Zach Wilson in to compete with Kyle Trask and Dave Canales worked with him, I'd love to see that, because Canales, the work he's done with Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, I think speaks volumes about him as a developmental guy. So, hey, get one of these high upside guys over there and see what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Chris has agreed with Jacob. If Belichick really is done in New England, I think they win by 10 plus. While the Jets are finishing up the season, that went in smoke within minutes week 1. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. It's just hard to gauge like the motivation from teams, which is like really difficult this year for some reason. Maybe that's the reason why the Sharps have done poorly as well, just because like the motivational angles have not worked this year for some reason. Let's say Cal says Patriots would mess up draft position locked into second with a loss, are they not? Yes, but I mean we've seen teams mess up the draft positions many times in the past. Like I like the players don't care. The players really don't care about the draft positioning because like they may not be on the team by the time or they may not be on the team by the time the player is on the team or by the time the player develops. So like they're just trying to win. They're trying to get a big contract for themselves. Like these are just 53 hired mercenaries, basically. You know, it's like they don't care about the future unless they're like super locked in. You know,
And Bill Belichick won't care about that pick because one, we
right.
don't know if he's back, and two, if he is back, he's trading the pick anyway. So what's the difference between 2 and 3? Obviously, you would get more of a package for number 2, but it wouldn't be significant enough difference for Belichick to cost himself a win. Remember, Belichick's chasing the all-time wins record, but a loss would tie him for the most losses by an NFL coach ever. So not like he's going to get the wins record before getting the losses record, but he probably would like to avoid tying that to end this season.
Yeah, that's true. Chris saying, why aren't the Patriots using Malik Cunningham this week? Is he that far away from being ready? Well, he's on the Ravens, so it'd be kind of hard for the Patriots to use him. I don't know why they got rid of him. And I don't know if Will Greer's still there either. Like, I assume he's not. I don't know why the Patriots have gotten rid of these guys and not used them, or like at least tried them. It just feels like they should have done that. But I don't know. Like, I guess they like Bailey Zappi, so.
Yeah, they replaced Malik Cunningham and Will Greer with Nathan Rourke, who was a star for the British Columbia Lions in the CFL. So there's your CFL nugget of the day. That's where we're at, Patriots quarterback depth chart wise.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. I just like, why not try Rourke? I don't know. Like whatever. It's like Zappi's done okay, I guess, but there's no real future with him. All right. Next game is Jaguars at the Titans. This line opened up Jaguars -3.5. It's gone to 5. And you know, the playoff scenario here is super simple. If the Jaguars win, they're in. They lose, it's goodbye. So who do you like here?
So this has to be an Aurora Snowmo game, right? Am I right?
It's the first of 4.
There we go. Okay. I always screw up the definition when we get to them because I never remember that they have to be eliminated. But yeah, I like the Titans here because of the Aurora Snowmo effect here. Like, obviously, the Jaguars need to win this game, and they should probably beat the Titans here. But I don't know that it's a guarantee that you're going to beat or cover against Mike Vrabel in this spot because Vrabel gets it more out of his guys than maybe any coach in the NFL, or he's among the top at getting people kind of out of there. So I'm excited to see what Vrabel can do in this spot. I know last week against the Texans was ugly, but the Texans have a much better defense than the Jaguars right now. And I think Derrick Henry is going to be pretty amped up for this game. It might be his last one as a Titan. He's had some prolific games against the Jaguars before. During one of his 2,000-yard seasons, he had that like 90-some-odd yard run against the Jaguars where I remember just screaming the whole time he was like running down the field through someone with a stiff arm. So I think if the Titans can run the ball in this spot, regardless of who's at quarterback, whether it's Will Levis or Ryan Tannehill, I think that so long as they don't turn the ball over, they distribute the ball and they can establish the run, I think they can keep this close because I don't see the Jaguars offense this year hasn't been as explosive as we kind of anticipated it might be coming into the year. They're without Christian Kirk. Trevor Lawrence has been banged up in recent weeks, so we don't know how healthy he is. So now all of a sudden he has to go on the road and cover this 5-point spread against, you know, a Titans team that's lacking talent, but is very well coached. And with a coach who does really well as an underdog, especially as an underdog of 3 or more, that makes me want to lean on the Titans here. So I'm going to back them. I don't know if the Titans will pull off this win, but I think this is a spot where I'm going to want to back the Titans for a couple units. We'll see if they end up having more injuries than I'm kind of aware of. Then I might want to press the brake a little bit there, but I don't envision myself being on the Jaguars in any shape in this game. I just don't trust them.
Yeah, I don't trust them either. The Jaguars have won one game since they beat the they beat the Texans back in week 12. It was that one game they won was against the Panthers, so not the most convincing track record here that they've had in this, you know, the second half of the year. And as you said, like Trevor Lawrence may not be healthy. Compared him to the Black Knight from the Monty Python movies, where, you know, it's like different injury every single week, and like he keeps trying to play. But eventually, like enough was enough, I guess. Because it was too much last week, so like he may not be 100%. I quite honestly would be shocked if he's 100%. So it's nice to bet, nice to fade a healthy or not a healthy quarterback. We should do with the Titans here with 5.5 points. Which is nice. And, as you said, Mike Vrabel tends to do well in this role. He's 25-14 against the spread as an underdog of 3 or more. And yeah, this is an Oro Stomo game where, the Jaguars need to win. The Titans have been eliminated, and history says that like 3/4 of the time, the team that is eliminated covers the spread. And I think there are 2 factors here in play. One is like the team that needs to win, like sometimes chokes, the players will choke on the pressure. But second, like these spreads are overinflated. Jaguars -5.5 at Tennessee. I feel like that's kind of outrageous to me. I think like what was it last week was we had the let me find the spread. So last week was the Texans hosted the Titans. I mean that was 4.5. Like I don't understand why the line would be 5.5 when we don't have a healthy quarterback necessarily. Like there's a chance that Lawrence may not even play. So like why are the Jaguars favored by 5.5 here? I just don't really understand it. In Tennessee, no less. It's like a point more than Houston was favored in Houston last week. So it doesn't really make much sense to me. I personally made the spread to pick them. And if you think like I'm way too low on that, the EPA numbers say that the Titans should be favored by 1.5. That's how much they hate the Jaguars. The metrics hate the Jaguars a lot. Like they have the Jaguars, I think, ranked like 27th in that EPA because Jacksonville's defense has been so bad. Like they made Jake Browning look like Joe Montana in that Monday night game, and then the next week they made Joe Flacco look like Peyton Manning. Like they can't stop anyone through the air. Like yeah, they have a good pass rush, they can stop the run, but it doesn't matter because they can't stop anything aerially. And I think that whether it's Ryan Tannehill or Will Levis, like I think they should be able to throw all over this Jaguar team and keep it close. And as Chris said in the comments, this is a revenge game from last year when the Jaguars knocked out the Titans in Week 18. Now it's the Titans' chance to get that revenge here. So yeah, I like Tennessee quite a bit. Wouldn't shock me if they won outright. So it might sprinkle a little bit on money line, but yeah, 5.5 looks really nice.
Yeah, and if you listen to Mike Vrabel this week, he was asked about the game, and he basically was like, "Yeah, I want to win. Losing sucks." Like that's what he like. Very adamant. Like he was on those Patriots dynasty teams. Like he does not like losing at all. He gets so much out of his roster, even when it's as bad as this year's one. But yeah, I think he's also people in the chat are asking if his job is safe and if his contract's up. He has 2 years left on his contract after this year. There was reporting this week that his contract was up after the season. That was incorrect. And I believe Michael Lombardi corrected himself on that shortly after audio of him mentioning that was released. But I do think I like the Titans in this spot, and I think Vrabel's job is safe. You can't really ask him to do much more than what he's done with what he's been given. I think the only way he's not back with Tennessee is if he wants a job elsewhere. And they decide to let him go and Rand Carthon hire another guy. But I wouldn't recommend that. I think Vrabel's a good coach.
Oh yeah, I think so too. He usually has his team in contention for the playoffs or gets them there, and like they haven't had the best talent, so feels like he's done like he's gotten the most out of the team, I think. And like if they let him go, I feel like there are a lot of teams that would line up to hire him. So let's see here. We have some comments here. So John says the Bills need the Titans to win, or they probably miss the playoffs. Well, I mean, the Bills will win if they make the playoffs. I assume that if the Bills lose, then yes, the Bills need some help if they lose. But yeah, I mean, if they win, they're in. Doesn't matter. Jason says here's the only one here on Jacksonville. Or Mike says he likes Jacksonville too. So going with the Aurora Snowmo in Week 18 is very dangerous, guys. So be careful with that. Yeah, so yeah, we talked about the Vrabel contract. Let's see. Chris says it's a good point. Andrew with Tennessee is 1-4 against the spread as dogs at 3.5 or more this season. They play some really tough teams though. Like usually, like I feel like this Jaguar team isn't nearly as good as some of those opponents. Like, for example, like I remember they lost to Cleveland like pretty handily as 3.5-point dogs. But Cleveland was just a lot better than Jacksonville. So I don't think the Jaguars deserve to be favored by 5.5 on the road in Tennessee. So what Jacob, what number would you make this? Because I said I'm making a pick 'em and the metrics say Titans -1.5. Like, what would you have made this line?
I probably would have gone something along the lines of Jaguars -1.5. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe Jaguars -2, just with a nod to the fact that, hey, the Jaguars definitely have the better roster. I know they're on the road, but it's probably a field goal game in either direction. But you're tempting fate giving Mike Vrabel this many points, even in a year when his roster has been as bad as it has been.
Yeah. Chris saying the 5 are Dolphins, Jaguars, Ravens, Texans, Browns. The games in which they were favored by they're underdogs of 3.5 or more. Yeah, I mean they even covered against the Dolphins, but yeah, Ravens and Browns you can't compare with that. Texas was just last week. I think that game just got away from them. The first Jaguar game was it was when the Jaguars are healthier. Tennessee has been stellar at home this year. This is true. Yeah, they've only lost once at home, I believe. So, all right, let's get to the next game. The Vikings at the Lions. So this line opened up Lions -4. It got bet down to 3, which I thought was curious. And then I read a report saying that the Lions may sit their starters in this game because they are basically locked into the 3 seed. To get to the 2 seed, they need both the Eagles and Cowboys to lose. They need the Eagles to lose to the Giants and need the Cowboys to lose to the Redskins. So very unlikely to happen. So there's a chance to sit the starters. The one quote I heard from Dan Campbell is that he says he's expecting. I actually have it here. He said he expects his starters to play, which is like weird to say. Like, if he thought his starters would play, he'd be like, yeah, they're going to play. He's like, I expect my starters to play. Like, what does that mean? So, like maybe that means they're going to play a quarter and then they're just going to sit. So, or like maybe they'll play half and like he'll hear the score, and if he hears that one of the Cowboys or Eagles are up big, then he'll just pull their starters. So look out for that. Just if you want to bet Detroit, just be careful about that. So with that in mind, who do you like here?
Yeah, I was torn on this one because I knew there was the possibility of them sitting starters because the Vikings are still alive in the playoff race. So I can't imagine that Dan Campbell loves the idea of saying, hey, we're going to sit our starters and let Minnesota win. And, it's unlikely that the Vikings get in. I think the percent chance is like 4 or something, which is very, very low, but not impossible. So I think his competitive spirit might be like, oh man, I can't do this. But at the same time, I think the Lions are going to probably rest most of a good chunk of their starters for at least part of the game, just to make sure they're healthy, because they've got a tough matchup with either the Rams or the Packers coming up in the first round, the wild card round of the playoffs. So I think, or Rams or the Packers, if they win, those are their most likely opponents. But actually, no, definitely their opponents. Sorry. If they're the 3 seed, the only 2 teams that can be the 6 seed are the Rams and the Packers. There we go. So those are going to be tough opponents. They're going to have to be at their best for those guys. So I think if he sees an opportunity to get his players some rest, I think that will do the Lions well. I think the other element here is the Vikings kept it close against the Lions the last time they played just a couple weeks ago. And they're going to be probably more amped up for this game than Detroit because it means a lot more to the Vikings, and they can potentially get a win that would maybe position them to make the playoffs if other things break in their favor. So where we're getting the 3, I like the Vikings in this spot. Whether or not I bet on this will depend on what we learn about the Detroit starters. But I anticipate that they'll sit at least part of this game. And the other thing is I want to know who the Vikings starting quarterback is. I assume it's going to be Nick Mullins, but if they try to pull something and be like, yeah, we're going to give Jaron Hall another chance, which I can't imagine, I don't want to be a part of that. So we're going to go with the +3 with the Vikings for now, maybe up to 2 units. Depending on what we learn about the Detroit starters, but that's where I'm feeling right now. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not not going to bet this game because we might get the backups. And Chris having a good point here. Eagles Cowboys games aren't 1 p.m. games though, so maybe Dan Campbell has a time traveler that he's hearing that from what I said about halftime. So yeah, I don't know. I still feel like he could pull his starters at any point. They really don't need to win this game, and like the fact that he wasn't like pretty adamant. He's like, I expect them to play. It just feels weird to me. Like I feel like they could sit some of their guys, and then maybe pull guys as the game progresses, like regardless of the score. Because really, I mean, you can't count on both the Eagles and Cowboys losing to bad teams. Like if it was just one, I could see it, but like both, just feels unlikely. So again, this is gonna be another game I pass on. Just feel like there are more opportunities here in Week 18. But yeah, I just don't like this one at all. Let's see here. So, were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay, all right. So, we had yeah. So Jason asking, "You sure the Vikings are alive?" Yes, they are. They need the following to happen, and it's 4% because you need Tampa to lose to Carolina, and like the odds of that are going to be low. Just because like Carolina is a terrible team, but any given Sunday anything can happen. So the things that need to happen for the Vikings to make the playoffs, obviously they need to win. In addition to that, they need Tampa to lose to Carolina. They need I guess the Saints Falcons game doesn't matter. They need Seattle to lose to Arizona, and they need Green Bay to lose to Chicago. Those are the four things. And it feels like that could certainly happen. Seattle's only -2.5 at Arizona. Arizona could win. Chicago is only 3-point dogs at Green Bay. That could happen. Yeah, they could. The Vikings could beat Detroit. They are only 3-point dogs. It feels like the big thing is that Tampa Carolina game, which we'll get to in a second after these comments. Let's see here. Who would the Lions start? Hendon Hooker. That is a good question. I was actually wondering about that. Like, would they start their other guy, their number 2 quarterback, who is
Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater or Hendon Hooker. It's probably going to be Bridgewater, but I don't know. I'd love to see Hendon Hooker get some action. He was cleared to play, so I don't know. It could happen. Yeah. So yeah, we discussed the stuff here. Okay, so anyway, we'll get to that final early game here. Tampa at Carolina. This is the big one. This is the thing that could open up a lot of things in this playoff race and make things exciting. Tampa at the Panthers. This line opened up Buccaneers -5.5. I saw a 5 and then it went back to 5.5. So just not really any line movement here of significance. So Carolina 2-14. Can they get the job done? Can they upset the Bucs? What do you think?
God, I hope so. I'm backing them. I don't know if I'm gonna have. I don't know if I'm gonna have the stones to bet this one because I bet on the Panthers last week, anticipating that they might be able to move the ball on the Jaguars a little bit, and they scored 0 points. So I'm a little bit. I kind of. Baker Mayfield revenge game. That is a good point too. But this is another Aurora Snowmo game. The Buccaneers can win and in for the postseason here, and I need the Buccaneers to lose to have a chance at my Atlanta Falcons winning the division bet to hit. So I'm not necessarily looking to like double down on that by betting the Panthers, but these two teams did play closely earlier in the season. I know that the Panthers had a backdoor cover in that game. They were down 11, but they played a 21-18 game, and I think that the Buccaneers have gotten better on offense, but the Panthers defense could they match up decently well with the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield is a little bit banged up, so this is kind of a high line to go on the road with those things in mind. That said, the Panthers have done very little to inspire confidence at any point. But yeah, as Kel's saying, the Panthers have nothing to lose. Like, if they lose, this game would be expected. But if they somehow pull off an upset of the Buccaneers, that leaves the season with all right, well, this was very disappointing, but at least we end the season on a bad note, one that it doesn't involve our owner throwing a drink at a Jaguars fan. I mean, what is wrong with David Tepper? Seriously. You don't do that. You're the owner. Just walk away, man. Anyway, I think this line just a little high for my liking, given what the Buccaneers have, but I don't want to bet on the Panthers, so I might not bet this one. Do you feel stronger about this than me?
So, I mean, how could this possibly be an upset? Like, you have the number 1 overall pick as a quarterback, having a bad year on a poorly coached team. It's just like nothing going on, like constantly losing, like underperforming, playing against a team with everything on the line. Divisional game, like big road favorite here. This has never happened before, has it? Like where like the team with the top quarterback in the draft is hosting a rival in Week 18. Oh wait, that happened 2 years ago when the Jaguars beat the Colts with Carson Wentz. Like the Colts are what, like 14.5 point favorites in that game or something like that. And Trevor Lawrence had that horrible year with Urban Meyer. Now, I know that Meyer was fired, but so is the Panthers coach. And then out of nowhere, the Jaguars won 26-11. Completely one-sided game. They actually would have covered the spread had they been favored by the 14.5, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I think the Panthers is definitely live to win this game. In fact, I think they will. This Tampa performance last week was like, I feel like a harbinger of things to come. Like they look so bad against the Saints, and I know that like they didn't technically need to win that game, but like they could have really made things a lot easier for themselves had they beaten the Saints. And so, like, I'm not going to write that off. I really think that's a sign of things to come. Baker Mayfield is dealing with a rib injury. He's not healthy. He's going to play, I assume. And yeah, this is a revenge game. I feel like he already had his revenge game against Carolina. This is kind of like the second matchup. I feel like is not going to be as impactful for him. And plus he's hurt. And I think that like I feel like the Panthers should be able to move the ball like somewhat well. Like the Tampa secondary is pretty horrible. They're bad against slot receivers. I think Adam Thielen's going to have a decent game. We saw that last time. Like Thielen had a fine performance. Chuba Hubbard actually had a decent game too against Tampa's run defense, was kind of surprising. And then against Carolina's defense, Carolina is very weak against the run and they're strong against the pass. What is the Panthers? The Bucs love to pass. They're not good at running the ball. As I said before, Rashad White's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's not a good runner. And so like, it feels like the Panthers' strengths match up well with the Buccaneers' weaknesses and vice versa. I think this is going to be a close game. I think who said 23-20? Chris said it feels like 23-20. I agree. I think it's going to be a 3-point game either way. And I think the Panthers are very live to pull the upset. And this is Aurora Snowmo game number 2. So yeah, give me the Panthers plus 5.5. I've been telling everyone not to bet the Panthers all year, or at least the second half of the year when it was established that they are the worst team in the NFL. One of my rules is to not bet the worst team in the NFL. But as we saw 2 years ago, the final week of the season is a different animal. Especially if the favorite has flaws like the Colts did 2 years ago. The Buccaneers have some major flaws with Mayfield being hurt, and really they've been lucky all year. Like how many lucky wins have they had the entire season? Week 1, they needed Kirk Cousins to implode just to win that game. Barely. Week 2, Justin Fields for some reason just didn't run a scramble at all. Plus the Bears are missing like 2 linemen. I think like that was the week Nate Davis had I think it was like a death in the family that he missed time. And so, like, the Bears are shorthanded on the offensive line. Week 4 against the Saints, they got Derek Carr coming off that shoulder injury where he couldn't throw the ball downfield. Recently, they beat Atlanta, where Atlanta outgained them by, like, almost 200 yards. Just Atlanta being Atlanta and losing the game. Like, this Buccaneers team should not be 8-8. Like, really, they could easily be 6-10, 5-11. Like, this is how bad they are. They do not deserve to be favored by 5.5 on the road, even against Carolina. Give me the Panthers. This is my biggest play of the early slate.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same side. I might end up betting the Panthers. That would mark 3 weeks in a row me betting the Panthers, which sounds like a bad idea, but I did win 2 weeks ago against the Packers somehow because they somehow scored 30 points and then scored 0. So maybe it all balances out. Maybe it's a win-loss-win to close the season. But yeah, this one is one of those ones where you kind of have to like hold your nose and make the pick, but the numbers do indicate that the spread is a little high.
Yeah, I think it's definitely too high. I think I made this line 3 if I remember correctly. Let me see. I made it 3.5, so it's a touch high. Like 5.5 is kind of outrageous, I think. You guys are riding the snowmo to hell this week. Maybe it's been so great in the past though. It's one of my favorite angles in Week 18. 3P to the NFC South will be unprecedented, yes. But yeah, it's a different quarterback now. It's Tom Brady beforehand. Silver Red Eye says Panthers have been jacked to knock out the Bucs at home to end the season, but Walt 4 units on this pedestrian squad. Well, would you have been crazy to say 4 units on the Jaguars that year when the Jaguars are so bad? I think this is more of a play on against the Buccaneers, who have an injured quarterback and are not a good team in the first place. John says props to Adam Thielen and DeAndre Hopkins for passing on the money last season to sign with Super Bowl contenders. Yes, very, very, very good. I mean, I don't think Thielen had really much of a chance, much of a choice, because he's coming off a down year. But like Hopkins for sure. Like he had a chance to sign with some good teams. He took the money, and I said at the time, I'm like, I don't blame him. This might be his last opportunity for money, and he's not going to be working much longer. So it's not like he has a real job and he's going to be retiring at 65. Like he's going to be retiring very soon, and he needs the money like to survive for the rest of his life. So I don't blame him, but then again, it is funny. It's fun to make fun of. Andrew asking, which NFC South team could potentially beat the Eagles at home? What do you think?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think that probably the Buccaneers would match up best with them, because the Eagles have such a weakness in the secondary. I think Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Baker Mayfield, if healthy, would probably give the Buccaneers a chance to kind of keep that one close and pull away. I think they have the firepower to score with the Eagles, and I don't think that the Falcons or Saints defense could do enough to fully slow down the Eagles or keep up with them on offense. So I would go with the Buccaneers probably, but what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Chris. He says all of them except Carolina. The Eagles are so bad. Man, they've gotten really bad. I mean, if Mayfield's injured, then not Tampa. If Mayfield are healthy, then you can maybe talk me into Tampa, I guess. I would say maybe the Saints. Like Derek Carr's been playing better recently. If Olave is healthy and Kamara are healthy, I think the Saints have the pieces to do it. And then if Art Smith wants to give the ball to Bijan Robinson a lot, the Eagles' run defense has gotten really bad recently. I think the two Georgia guys have been running out of gas here. I think the Falcons could pull the upset too. It's just the Eagles are not very impressive. This is not Dallas from last year as the 5 seed.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I could envision it happening. Like the Eagles are not what their record says they are.
No, they're not. John asking, is Sirianni overrated given the success of the Texans and the Colts this year? Yeah, I mean, well, they definitely missed the coordinators. It's crazy how many people scoffed at that. Losing both coordinators was very painful. I don't know if he's overrated. I just still think the Eagles they've won more games than they should have, and I think that's says something about the coach. So I'm not going to say he's overrated yet, but we'll see. I mean, the jury might not be out on him yet. So, all right, let's get to the late games. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. All right, so first of the late games is Cowboys at the Redskins. This line open up Cowboys minus 13.5. It's down to 13. There might be some weather in this game. It sounds like there's going to be a system of sorts on the East Coast on Sunday. But I looked at NFL weather. At least I did on Tuesday morning. Let's check it now very quickly. So they were calling for, I guess apparently not, 40 degrees and 12 mile an hour winds. So nothing. It looked worse earlier, but it's definitely, I guess it's not going to be as bad as we thought. So anyway, with that in mind, who do you like here?
Yeah, so I think this game will boil down to who plays quarterback for Washington for me. If we get Sam Howell in this game, I'm probably going to back the Cowboys, just because the Cowboys, with a win, clinch the NFC East and number 2 seed. And I think that's going to be important for them, because they're going to want to avoid falling to what would likely be the 5th seed if they lost somehow in this game. So I think that this high line is warranted, because they have a huge matchup advantage over Washington if they're focused. If Sam Howell starts, and Dak Prescott, we know, will be able to throw all over them, because, I mean, they did on Thanksgiving, especially in that second half. Now, at the same time, if Jacoby Brissett starts this game for Washington, I think Brissett is live to keep this game much closer. I think the Cowboys still win, but I mean, I think it would become more of a back and forth shootout type game. The Cowboys defense it hasn't been bad by any means in recent weeks, but it's been a little shakier. It's allowed a lot more points at various times throughout the last couple months. So I could see this being like a 30-23 type game if Jacoby Brissett starts at quarterback, where the Cowboys are keeping them at an arm's length, but then late Jacoby Brissett leads the Commanders to that kind of backdoor cover type scenario. So I just want to see who starts at quarterback. I mean, if Washington is angling for draft positioning, they should probably start Howell and just say, oh yeah, Brissett's not healthy enough with that hamstring to do it. So we'll see what we have with Howell. But it's going to depend on the quarterback for me. But right now I have the Cowboys penciled in as a team I'm probably going to bet on. But if Brissett checks into the lineup, then I might swap sides. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I'm thinking same exact thing. So if this is Sam Howell, I'll be on Dallas. It's like as unappealing as this line is, minus 13 on the road. Dallas plays so much better at home in their cozy stadium. Like playing in the elements is just going to make their passing offense worse. But like Washington's so bad against the pass, like they've allowed the most big plays this year. It feels like Dallas should be able to score enough points to cover the spread. And with Howell at quarterback, like the Redskins aren't going to be able to keep up on the scoreboard. Saw that last week against the Niners. Howell just takes way too many sacks, which is like pretty troubling against Michael Parsons. But if it's Brissett, like Brissett has shown that he's better than Howell. Terry McLaurin was like gushing about how he wants to play with Brissett. Just like how the two have been in rhythm, even though they barely play with each other. Like we saw it in that Rams game. And just like having like McLaurin as like a legitimate threat again would just make this live for a backdoor cover. It's a huge number. So like we saw the two games Brissett entered the game where he almost had the backdoor cover against the Rams, like coming from way back, and then again coming from way back against the Jets, he almost won. It's amazing how much better he is than Howell. So yeah, this pretty simple formula here. If Howell plays, I'm on Dallas. If Brissett plays, I'm on the Redskins. And it's funny that you said 30-23 because I have 31-23 on the site.
Hey, there we go. We're in lockstep on this one, though. That's a good sign, I think, because I think we've had a pretty decent beat on the Cowboys for most of the year. There have been like a couple slip ups, but I feel like they've been a team that's been very good to me this year. So I'm kind of hoping that they kind of lock up that number 2 seed because I think for them, home field is so important too, as you mentioned. So they're going to be extra motivated to win this game, but it's just going to be a matter of which QB they get to whether they can cover or not.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Red Eye asking, is Rivera a dead duck? Yes, would be. Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's back. Only 3 winning seasons by Rivera as a head coach. It's kind of surprising. Andrew saying, never see a QB enjoy getting sacked as much as Sam Howell. Well, you may have not seen David Carr play a long time ago. It was like they're pretty similar quarterbacks. Chris says Cowboys won big at New York and Carolina. Washington feels on par with those teams. Those games were like much earlier, right? Like, and I don't know, Washington feels on par with those teams if Howell plays. If it's Brissett, it's a different story though. So. I'd be worried about Brissett, and this would be a Cowboys type loss to give the division. Yeah, it feels that way, right? All right, so let's get to the next game. We have the Rams at 49ers. Both teams will be playing their backups here. The Rams are locked in the playoffs. They are going to be the 6th seed unless the Packers get in, and then they'll be the 7th seed. I don't think they care. And then the Niners are locked into the 1 seed. So, what do you make of this? We have Carson Wentz versus Sam Darnold. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams, just mostly the number more than anything else. I'll be honest, I didn't hear that the Rams were officially going to start their backups or not start their starters yet, but I think that it's kind of an interesting game in that both of these quarterbacks are going to want a showcase game to prove what strides they've made. But I almost think that the Rams are probably better built and more motivated in this one because they can set up that game against Matthew Stafford against the Lions game. And maybe they won't care about that too much, but I think the idea of them potentially getting that win and having the option to avoid playing San Francisco immediately if the 7 seed beats the 2 seed, which if the 2 seed is Dallas, that is possible. Like, let's not discount that. If the Packers play the Cowboys, the Packers could win that. And then all of a sudden things get easier for the Rams to make a Super Bowl run. So I do think that this game will be slightly more important for the Rams. I think the 49ers are really going to focus on resting their stars. I mean, obviously Christian McCaffrey's not playing. Brock Purdy won't play. Debo won't play. So all of these weapons are going to be gone. Kyle Shanahan's a good schemer, but so is Sean McVay. So I think this is going to be an interesting game to watch just to see which coach can kind of get more out of his backups. But my lean right now is just the Rams, just a pure number play. We're getting the 3. I expect this could be a field goal game. And I think the Rams, if this game is close at the end, are going to have more incentive to go and try and put forth like full throttle effort to get the job done and clinch the 6th seed. So that's where my head's at with this one, but I welcome your thoughts on this as well.
I mean, I don't really have thoughts in this game. It's just like two teams play backups. Like, how do you handicap this? Like, it's almost like a preseason game, like really. And like, question here, like, how hard is Shanahan game planning? He owns McVay. I doubt it. I think he's just more focused on getting his team right for the playoffs. Like why would he care to game plan for this game? Like really, I'm kind of excited to see Carson Wentz, like how he's progressed to Sean McVay. We saw Baker Mayfield play better with Sean McVay last year, and also it's not just McVay. It was Carson Wentz watching a lot of film with John Gruden in the summer. So like Wentz has been kind of like immersed with the like a lot of smart guys around him, and I'm kind of curious to see how he does. Then again, he won't have Cooper Kupp, he won't have Puka Nacua, he probably won't even have DeMarcus Robinson. So it's kind of hard to judge him based on that. But again, he won't be playing against Nick Bosa either, or Chase Young, or Eric Armstead, etc. Like, so it's just like scrub quarterback playing a scrub quarterback. I'll take the points, I guess. I don't really recommend betting this game because I'd almost rather bet flip a coin.
Yeah, I think the only reason I could convince myself to bet this game is the 49ers know they might play the Rams. So they might really not they might play like super vanilla, not to tip their hand. I know you can maybe say the same thing about the Rams, knowing that they might play the 49ers. But again, like I said, I think it will matter a little more for them just clinching that 6th seed because it makes the path just slightly easier. It gives them the potential option to avoid San Francisco and, play the winner of the Eagles versus NFC South game, possibly. So I think that's why I'm going to lean on the Rams. That's why I would maybe consider betting it, but I'm probably going to sit this one out as well.
Andrew making a good point here. The Niners have a deeper pass rush. Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell. Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. But I don't know if they're deeper everywhere else, So, but yeah, I guess it is something to go on. I just would not bet this game. Let's see here. People asking if this is the battle of number 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, second quarterbacks in their class, but not number 2 because Darnold was number 3 overall. John says the Giants wisely took a running back with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson being busts. Yes, they made the safe move, and it certainly paid off, right?
Oh, man, I remember I was at UMass at that time, and I had a kid in my class who was a Giants fan, and he kept being like, "They're going to take Barkley, and it's going to be great." And I was like, "No, they should probably take a quarterback. Like they like Josh Allen, they like Sam Darnold. Maybe they should take one of them." He's like, "No, Barkley's going to get them over the hump," and that hasn't happened. I mean, Darnold wouldn't have been a good pick either, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you want to make the safe pick, sure. Just you're not going to get much success out of it. And I find it funny like teams want to make the safe pick, but like most draft picks are busts anyway. Like I remember Aaron Curry a long time ago, safest linebacker of all, safest defensive player of all time. He's a huge bust. Like I don't know. Just yeah, I feel like you have to take a gamble once in a while. But speaking of the team that drafted that running back, we have the Giants are hosting the Eagles. This line is Eagles -5.5, and that's what it opened at. Nick Sirianni mentioned the possibility of sitting his players, which I did not expect when I first handicapped this game. But he said that he thinks that there's a good chance that some of the starters are going to sit out. And the thinking here is that they need Dallas to lose to Washington for this game to mean anything, which I guess like theoretically could happen. But I think it sounds like he'd rather have his team healthy for the playoff game, especially with Devontae Smith getting hurt last week. So that in mind, who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Giants a lot here, and I think that the Eagles still might play their starter. They might do the thing that you mentioned earlier, where they might play their starters in the half. They'll look at the Dallas score at halftime and say, "All right, do we really want to put these guys out there again if this looks like a foregone conclusion?" And then make the decision to pull some of them. But if they're comfortable with the 5 seed and they play the NFC South guys, like that doesn't sound too bad in the first round for their purposes. So I could see that happening. But I like the Giants here because Tyrod Taylor just gives them a lot more juice than Tommy DeVito. One of the reasons we got screwed over by the Eagles on Christmas was because Tommy DeVito got benched. It was awful. I'm like watching the game. That was actually the one game this year that I've not watched a single down of live. And I was monitoring the box score. I'm like, all right, the Eagles got this at like halftime. I'm like, they're doing well enough. They should pull away. And then they put Taylor in the second half from what I saw. And I was like, oh no, this is not going to go well. And I had to drive like 3 hours in the middle of that game. And then I got out of the car and I saw a text from Quacky. And it was like, oh my God, I can't believe the Eagles did that. Why? I hate this team. Like all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I see what happened. But like they put Tyrod Taylor in. And he makes more plays than DeVito. He makes the safe plays. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he has an ability to get the ball downfield. I mean, Darius Slayton's had 2 long touchdown catches in consecutive weeks. I mean, that's been pretty insane. And I was going against Tyrod Taylor in the Sporting News Fantasy Final. Don't ask how that happened, but it did. And it was very painful watching both of those because I was denied a cover and then denied a championship. So anyway, long story short, I think the Giants offense will be able to move the ball on the Eagles defense. The secondary isn't good. The Giants don't have weapons, but Taylor is an accurate quarterback. So they got plus 5.5 with the Eagles potentially sitting their starters, but people not being aware of that yet. Yeah, you sign me up for that. I've got 1 to 3 units on that. I just want to be sure that the Eagles aren't going to be playing their starters. And if they're playing the starters and they say they might pull them, then I will still be very confident in the Giants. But this just seems like a bad spot for the Eagles. And they know their fate. They're kind of probably going to be the 5 seed barring a miracle. So why wouldn't they get some rest before the playoffs?
Yeah, that game was so frustrating. You said you didn't watch it. It was the worst. Like the Eagles are up 20-3 at halftime. It looked great, and they were getting the ball to start the third quarter. And then Olamide Zaccheaus ran into the kick returner for no reason. And so the Eagles turned the ball over. The Giants got a quick touchdown. And then the Eagles allowed another defensive touchdown with Dallas Goedert slipped, and the Giants got a pick six. So yeah, it's like 14 points that the Giants scored, which they shouldn't have. And Tyrod Taylor was to add to the badness. Like Tyrod Taylor was just so much better than Aiden O'Connell, or not Aiden O'Connell, Tommy DeVito, Aiden O'Connell as well. But yeah, he was so much better than Tommy DeVito. Yeah, that was the reason why the Giants covered. The Giants outgained the Eagles 40-65 to 292, as Sumarada says. So like I think the Eagles are the right side in that game. But here it's a different story. I think the Eagles are in much worse shape now, even 2 weeks later, because Devontae Smith probably not going to play this game. Like even if the starters play, Smith's going to sit out because he has an ankle sprain. So suddenly, the Eagles, who had 2 great receivers, suddenly only have 1 great receiver in AJ Brown, and so like it's pretty easy to limit Brown, which the Giants actually did in that first meeting. And so you're gonna have to rely on Julio Jones now, like more. Like he's so decrepit. Like the Eagles just have no depth at receiver. And I always thought that like this year, I was like, man, if one of Brown or Smith goes down, like the Eagles are going to be in trouble offensively. And like now that's actually the case here. But then again, we may not even see the starters. I think there's a real chance that they actually sit their starters like right from the get-go. I could actually see that happening because I like if I'm the Eagles, like if I'm in their shoes, like I'm thinking like man, Dallas is not going to lose to Washington. Let's just get healthy here because we suddenly have some injuries, and let's get right. And plus, as the saying goes, there are two bye weeks in the NFC, the 1 seed, the 5 seed. So like let's just get this quote unquote bye game against the NFC South. I think that's what they're thinking. Like I think they know that they know they're going to get a soft 4 seed. So I like you kind of almost want to lose this game because the 7 seed is going to be better than the 4 seed unless it's the other NFC South team. So yeah, I like the Giants. I already bet them at plus 5.5 because if it's announced that the Eagles are going to sit their starters, this line is going to plummet. So this is the one pick I've locked in. I usually don't like locking in picks early because I want to see at least one injury report, but I don't think it really matters in this case. So if it's announced tomorrow or Thursday that the Eagles are sitting the starters, this line is going to go to like Eagles -1 or something like that, something crazy. So yeah, I like getting the plus 5.5 now.
Yeah, I'll probably join you in locking that in, just knowing that the starters might sit out. And the other thing to think about for Philadelphia's perspective, too, they get that easy matchup with the 5 seed in the first week. And yeah, they have to go on the road. It's not fun, but and they don't get home field advantage. But the thing is, if they win that game, all they need is one of the 2 or 3 seed to get upset. And then they avoid the 49ers until the potential NFC championship game. And not that you want to make your whole playoff strategy about avoiding teams you eventually have to beat. But, the later you can play the better team, the better off you are. So I think that might be in their minds as well. They're like, oh yeah, we get an easy matchup and then see what happens in front of us. And if we have to go to San Francisco, we're going to eventually have to do it. But maybe we stave that off one more week and get healthier or whatever happens. Maybe Brock Purdy, has a meltdown or something, and all of a sudden San Francisco's out. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. Andrew saying Jalen Hurts this year around, he lost to Tampa in the wild card 2 years ago. There was some quarterback who was playing for Tampa that year. What was his name? Maybe Tom Brady. It was a big difference there, plus Gronkowski as well. I believe, though, that was the year that I think Chris Godwin was injured, and then that was the year that Antonio Brown just walked off the field. Yesterday, now that it's January 3rd, January 2nd, marked the 2-year anniversary that happened. I remember that vividly because I was in the hospital for my son who was just born. And by the way, happy 2-year birthday to my son a couple days ago. It was, I remember just sitting in the hospital, like watching that game before we were going home and just like being like mystified by what was going on. I'm like, of course this is happening when I'm in the hospital, like the crazy, insane stuff. It's hard to believe like 2 years already has passed. It's insane.
Yeah, that most memorable day of my life. Not the birth of your son, Antonio Brown leaving. No offense to your son.
Well, you never met him, so of course. Yep. Gabbert was Tampa's QB, I think. Yeah. The greatest of all time, Blaine Gabbert. The greatest quarterback to ever close his eyes and throw the ball was Blaine Gabbert. Andrew asking, why doesn't Matt Patricia use the pencil on his ear? So we're asking the real tough questions now.
It's purely decorative pencil there. All about aesthetic.
Is that true? That you just like never uses it?
I actually don't know. I'll have to look into that. I feel like Patricia, I went to school where Patricia did and where he kind of started coaching. I actually used to work there, so I'll have to figure it out.
Okay, we need investigative reporting on that. All right, we have here the next game is Bears and Packers. This line opened up Packers -2.5, and now it's up to 3. The Packers, I believe they're winning in, I think. And so because of the what happened Sunday night where they beat the Vikings, they're winning in, and Chicago's just eliminated from the playoffs. So you have to kind of wonder, do they have anything to play for here? Packers by 3. It's the line. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I feel like John in the chat might have access to my notes because he just said this is eerily similar to the Packers-Lions season finale from last year. That's pretty much verbatim what I wrote. Yeah, this does have a very similar feeling. The Bears are on a hot streak right now. They're playing really well. Their defense looks significantly better since Montez Sweat has joined that unit. And Justin Fields and that offense are playing pretty well also. So all of a sudden, the Bears look like a scary team. Like if they had held on to that win against Cleveland a year ago, this might have been a win and in game for Chicago as well. They've really been much better in the second half of the season. And I know that the Packers just had a really impressive win against the Vikings, but Minnesota played really uncharacteristically poorly on defense throughout that entire game. They couldn't stop a nosebleed, and they had no chance on offense with Jaren Hall in that first half. So I kind of think they might have just folded after that. And the Packers, it was an impressive game for Jordan Love, but the fact of the matter is the Bears defense is going to test them a lot more in this spot. So the fact that we're getting the Bears as 3-point underdogs here seems almost too good to be true to me, which is why I'm a little scared about it. But at the same time, the Sharps were against the Bears last week, so I think people still haven't quite caught on to how good the Bears are. And I'm not saying the Packers are bad or anything, but I think this is a tough matchup for them because the Bears they get a lot of pressure. Jordan Love has done well at times under pressure, but he's been so hot and cold that if we get the version of Jordan Love who struggles more with his accuracy, I think this Bears defense is going to be poised to take advantage of it. He's an unproven first-year starter at quarterback, Jordan Love. So it's not easy to go against a top defense like the Bears. So I'm going to back the Bears here. I think I have 2 to 4 units penciled in on this one. I wrote 2 to 3, but it's really 2 to 4. I'm pretty confident that they'll have a chance to at least cover this one, if not win outright. So I love the Bears here.
Yeah, me too. I love the Bears as well. Yeah, I want to echo what you guys said. This is Lions versus Packers, week 18 last year. It's Sunday night. This is not the Sunday night game, but it's the same sort of situation where the Bears were eliminated, as were the Lions, and the Bears have something to play for. Not only are they playing for next year, they traded for Montez Sweat this to kind of get ahead and to get ready for the next year. But they also have Justin Fields, and like we've had some comments about like the Bears potentially moving on from Justin Fields. So that's not set in stone yet. They may not do it. And if I'm the players, like they clearly like Justin Fields, they want to play hard for him. And with another win to knock out the Packers from the playoffs, if they do that, that's kind of like that's another argument for keeping Justin Fields. And so I think they're going to play hard to keep him on. So yeah, that's not a concern for me at all. And the Bears are the better team here. Like since week 11, which is when they got Fields back from injury, and Montez Sweat has been on the team, they're 4-2. They played a lot of tough teams. Their two losses were, the first one was to Detroit, where they had a huge lead the whole time, and then the Lions came back at the end. But then again, like the Bears beat them a couple weeks later. And the second loss was to the Browns, as you reference that Hail Mary game. But the Bears were ahead for most of that game too. So like they could have won that game, and they could easily be 6-0. With Fields and Sweat together since week 11. They're 7th in net EPA. Their defense is actually first. Like they've overtaken the Browns as the top defense in the NFL. It's kind of crazy how good they've been like defensively. Their only weakness defensively is against slot receivers. You may think like, oh, Jaden Reed's going to go nuts again, but Jaden Reed may not play because he left the game early. So Jaden Reed's out. Suddenly that's the only advantage the Packers have, is out the window. Yeah, I think that this line is kind of off too. It says like the Bears are +3. It kind of reminds me of like last week when the Bears are only -2.5 against the Falcons. It made no sense. The Bears should, I would argue the Bears should be favored here. I think they're a lot better than the Packers, and I don't think the Packers are that bad. I just think that the Bears are a really good team that people don't understand that because they're 7-9, and a lot of people are like, oh, 7-9, they're not that good. It's just like really just stop looking at team records and just focus on how teams have played. And if you to do that, and if anyone to do that, they'd agree that the Bears are a really good team right now, and certainly better than the Packers. So yeah, I love the +3. This might be my pick of the month.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a pick that I'm in on heavy. I want to note I have the Bears over win total for the season. I thought that was dead. I really did, but it's over 7.5. I'm shocked. This might actually possibly hit. But yeah, I agree with you on the spread being off. I thought this is, again, similar to the Lions game last year. I think this is more of like a pick 'em spot, and you could argue that the Bears should be favored. I thought the same thing of the Lions last year. And last year, the Packers had it's Aaron Rodgers at home at Lambeau. Like, he's not going to lose in this spot. And he still did. And, Jordan Love has shown like really high upside. And I'm excited to see where he goes from here. If he can level off his play, he might be the third consecutive or fourth consecutive franchise quarterback that the Packers have had. But this is just a really tough matchup for him. So I'm glad we're on the same page here because I'm feeling pretty good about this one.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Like Jordan Love has looked amazing sometimes this year, but he's looked so bad again. Like at times this year, it's like he's been the most erratic quarterback. I can't remember a quarterback being this erratic in a single season. Can you? I can't name anyone like this.
No, I really can't. It's been like the highest of highs and lowest of low. There were times where I was like, oh my God, he's going to be elite. And then there were times I was like, he is borderline unplayable. Like,
yeah.
And I think that that's all part of his growth process. And the fact that he's had these high highs is a good sign. But, the inconsistencies have been very, very wide ranging, which has really made him fascinating to watch. I didn't anticipate enjoying watching him this year. I thought he might struggle a lot, but kind of not knowing what to expect has been fun, not as a bettor, but as a fan.
Yeah, it's almost like Jared Goff in his first year and Jared Goff in his second year in one season. Like it makes no sense. I don't understand how he's so bad at times and so good at times. And it's not just one game where, like any quarterback can suck in one game. Like, the year that Tom Brady won his second Super Bowl, he threw 4 interceptions in week 1. And then he rebounded obviously and won the Super Bowl and he had a great year. But it just goes to show that any quarterback can have a terrible game. But he's had so many terrible games. It's like it's like teams that aren't even that good. and so it's just so befuddling and like kind of maddening to handicap the Packers. But this is more about the Bears. And as Mike's asking here, the Bears Packers qualify as Aurora Snowmo game. Yes, this is the third Aurora Snowmo game. So yes, this is another reason to take the Bears. Can make an eagle asking Bears, Cardinals, Ravens on a 6-point teaser. I would only have 2 teams in the teaser. But yeah, I think that I would not put the Ravens in because they might be seeing the starters. So yeah, Bears Cardinals teaser sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I think that one sounds good to me. I would probably also I know I'm on the Ravens normally, but that game could get ugly in either direction. Like that one just doesn't interest me as much.
Yeah, Andrew and some other people are debating, the Bears aren't passing up on Mahomes again, but then some people are saying that the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields. I really don't know what they're going to do. I think they're going to take the quarterback, but I like it's so tough. Like, what if Caleb Williams is a bust? And as Chris says, Caleb Williams has been bad from October onward, and there are some character concerns there. So like maybe the Bears don't love Caleb Williams. It could be possible. So they could trade the pick and get a lot of resources that way. The only downside with keeping Fields is that you have to pay him right away. Whereas with the rookie quarterback, you get 4 years of financial freedom to do whatever you want. And they already have a great roster. And like they have a ton of cap space. Like I can't imagine how great their roster would be if they draft Caleb Williams and he's really good and they spend all their money wisely. Like that's like a multi Super Bowl winner, So
Yeah, I'm really torn on that one because I like what I've seen out of Justin Fields, but at the same time, you don't get the option to pick number 1 in the draft often. And the Bears have now had it 2 years in a row. Would they really trade down a second time? Like, I don't know. I don't think they could. I think they might sell themselves on one of these quarterbacks, and one team might just give a good enough offer for Fields where they're like, oh, we can get like a day 2 pick for Fields all of a sudden, or some heavily incentivized day 2 pick. And they might be like, sign me up for that, and we don't have to worry about the money. And they have another top 10 pick possibly too. Yeah. That probably will move if the Bears win, but I mean, they are positioned to be loaded.
Yeah, they really are. Andrew's saying, are the Bears Super Bowl bets to lock in for 2025? I think you mean 2024. They're going to be stacked with cap space and resources. Yeah, I'm going to be betting the Bears in 2024, assuming we get a decent number. Yeah, so Chris saying Packers are 19-3 against the Bears since 2010. I think you mean Aaron Rodgers is 19 or 18-3 against the Bears since 2010. It's a big difference, with Rodgers going down to Jordan Love. So I wouldn't read too much into that. If there's just still Aaron Rodgers in his prime, yeah, you'd be concerned. But Jordan Love, as we said, is super inconsistent. Let's see here. Packers are the poster child for Snowmo this week. Yeah, especially after that crazy win on New Year's Eve. I'm sure they did a lot of celebrating that night too. Is Chris asking, you don't think they can get a first round pick for Fields? It's close. Definitely a second and something else. I could maybe see a first. What do you? I don't know. What do you think about compensation for Fields?
So I think if they were trading him in any other year, they might have a shot at a first round pick, but this is a pretty deep looking quarterback class. Like there are as many as 6 guys who could be first round picks. So I think teams are going to be reluctant to say, hey, I'm giving up this, what would probably be a late first round pick or mid to late first round pick. I think they would say, yeah, Fields is proven, but I don't want to give up this high end resource for a guy I'm going to have to pay. If you trade for him, you have to pay him a certain amount of money. And like maybe he'd agree to a more team-friendly deal, but I see him going for more of a day 2 type pick, and maybe a second one. Like I could see him going for something along the lines of like, all right, you're getting a second round pick this year, and then a conditional day 2 pick in 2025 based off of his performance. Like that. That's more of what I think it would take to get Fields, just because he's had some inconsistencies, and this is a deep quarterback class. Like we talked about Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. I love Michael Penix Jr. Like, I think he's going to be a good quarterback, and I think he ultimately will go in the first round, even if it's late. So there's just a lot of guys to like this year.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a low class, and it's all about supply and demand, right?
Yep.
Okay, so all right, next game is we have Seahawks and Cardinals. Sun open up Seahawks -3. It's down to 2.5. So sharp money coming in on Arizona. So yeah, Seahawks need to win and get a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Cardinals here. I mean, the Seahawks are a little overrated. The Cardinals are playing well. With Kyler Murray in the lineup, their offense is a lot more explosive. I know that their defense still isn't very good, so Geno Smith and those guys should score on them. But I just don't see enough advantages for Seattle. Like their defense is just kind of leaky. Like they just surrendered 30 points to the Steelers, and Steelers offense hasn't been good all year. So I'm kind of down on them. And it wasn't like just Mason Rudolph making a difference. Like they struggled badly against the run. And we know that when James Conner runs well, the Cardinals tend to do better. And the Cardinals have that scrappy kind of attitude. Jonathan Gannon gets the most out of them. So I think they have a shot to win this one. I wish we were still getting the 3. If we were getting the 3, I would like the Cardinals more. But as was mentioned, like this looks like great teaser option for the Cardinals because I don't think the Seahawks blow them out on the road either way. So I'm going to be on the Cardinals here, and I might bet this one. I just need to decide how much I'm going to do it.
Yeah, this is our 4th and final Aurora Sonoma game. And so like this is probably the one I like the least because the number is not great. Like you're taking the Arizona plus 2.5. It feels like there's absolutely no value here because the advanced spread on this game was Seattle -5. So like we just lose so much value, including the 3. It feels like Seattle by 3 is probably the most likely result. Not factoring in any choking. Yeah, I'm still going to be on the Cardinals, though. I agree with you. I think that James Conner going against the Seattle run defense has been really leaky recently. It feels like a good matchup for the Cardinals. And the Seahawks are, I feel like they've been pretty overrated in the second half of the year. I think it goes back to that game against Washington. Remember, they were coming off a humiliating loss. I think it was against Baltimore, and then they were playing Washington at home. And like it looked like a game that they're really going to bounce back, and they're favored by like 6 or something like that. And they barely scraped by Washington. We've seen how bad the Redskins are since then. It's kind of like a sign of that the Seahawks just not a good football team. They're pretty mediocre at best, and so yeah, I just don't really like Seattle here. I kind of like Arizona a little bit, but it just sucks that all the line value is gone.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think teasing this one's the way to go because I could see Seattle winning this, but it being close. But there's just not enough value in this one. So I think of all the Snowmo games, this is the one that I'm most apt to avoid.
Yeah, I agree. Chris saying maybe the Panthers would trade off for Justin Fields. That'd be very, very entertaining. And just saying they don't have the resources back because he's Tepper trading 2 first-round picks for Belichick. Do you think that like when with Tepper spilling drinks on fans, they only find him like $300-something thousand? Do you think that like they didn't strip him of his draft picks because they knew he'd screw it up anyway?
Maybe it's worse for him to actually have resources
Right.
because he's going to squander them, which is worse than him not having them at all. Like that might be the situation. Like I could see him trading for Belichick too, even if it's not for like a first round pick or however they acquire Belichick. I could see them doing that and it just like blowing up in their face because that roster is just not built for Belichick yet. Like defense would be good, but like he's not the guy you want in to develop Bryce Young. I don't think. I think you need an offensive guy in there.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Mike saying, Seahawks, you guys are snowmowing yourselves to death. Well, don't be on the opposite side. I urge you. These teams do not cover. They have a low rate of covering. Quack is saying, send Fields to New England. Hey, Jacob, what do you think about that?
I actually would like that. I would like Justin Fields here a lot. I think he'd be a rock solid starter. If the Patriots want to use their top 4 pick or whatever pick they get on Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt or whoever else is available, then I'd be very on board with either trading for Fields or trading back up into the first round to get Michael Penix on that rookie contract. Because, like I said, I think that guy's going to be good, and I'd be excited to see. I'd be excited to see either of those guys in a Patriots uniform. But I just want new quarterback here, no matter what. So as long as it's someone talented, I'll be happy.
It'd be cool that like Belichick's defenses have struggled against mobile quarterbacks for so long. It'd be cool for him to have a mobile quarterback, Chris saying, yo, Mike, they are the regular snowmosexuals. Hot.
Oh boy.
All right, we got 3 more to go. The Broncos at the Raiders. This line to open up Raiders -2.5. It's still 2.5. We get the Jared Stidham versus Aiden O'Connell Bowl. So who do you like here?
Yeah, this is this is a close to a go girl game for me. My lean is on the Raiders. We're just not getting any line value with the Broncos, and I I get that Sean Payton's going to come back next year, so maybe the Broncos will be willing to play hard for him. But Jarrett Stidham just didn't look good. The offense wasn't. Not that I expected it to be magically fixed, but they couldn't take advantage of Chargers' weak pass defense. The Raiders. The Raiders defense has been much better with Max Crosby. And I think the Raiders are going to play really hard in this game to try to send Antonio Pierce off with a win and try to make that claim like, hey, this is who we want, Mark Davis. Don't not listen to us again. And then if Davis says it again, he's making the same mistake twice. But I think that the Raiders have more to play for, and we're getting them at less than 3. I think they're the right side, but I don't really have much interest in this one. This seems like a game that could be very painful to watch.
Yeah, I think I'm more likely to trust Aiden O'Connell versus Denver's defense than Jarrett Stidham versus the Raiders defense. Yes, Stidham did not have a good game last week, but I felt like a lot of his problems were miscommunications with the receivers, which kind of makes sense because he hasn't played with them. So like another week is certainly going to help. But like against a tough team like the Raiders, I just don't want to back him. Like both teams are ranked highly defensively, but I'm like more likely to trust the Raiders here than Denver because like it's so weird that Denver is ranked highly defensively because they have so many deficiencies. Like they can't stop the run and they're weak to tight ends. And the run here is going to be the problem, I think, against either Josh Jacobs and Zamir White's actually look pretty good. So it feels like the Raiders should be able to run the ball pretty decently, like win this game by like 6 or 7 points, maybe like 16-10 or something like that. It's going to be a very ugly game, go girl game for sure. So yeah, and I like your angle here of the Raiders playing hard for Antonio Pierce. I think that's pretty likely to happen. So I'm not going to bet this game, but I would side with the Raiders too.
Yeah, definitely the same page. I like. That's all I'll say about that. That's a cool nickname.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, definitely love that nickname for sure. Especially someone who's watched Hercules a billion times because his son loves Hercules. Mike saying I tried to warn them against Snowmo obsession. Can't wait for Walt Sunday night podcast. Okay, well, I mean, we'll see if the Snowmo stuff works. We'll have to see about that. But it has worked brilliantly in the past. Like I said, it's like about 70 to 75% cover rate, just fading these teams. All right, next game we have Chiefs at the Chargers. This line open up Chargers -1.5 is up to Chargers -3. If there's any sign that the Chiefs are sitting in the starters here, it's that the Chiefs are 3-point underdogs against Easton Stick. So Andy Reid has a history of sitting his starters. He also has a history of like playing his starters for like one drive and then benching them. So like if it's announced that Mahomes is going to play, don't think he's going to play the whole game or anything, or even a whole quarter. It just might be one drive and then that's it. So with that in mind, who do you like here?
Yeah, I don't like either of these AFC West games. This one I wrote big letters, go girl game. The Chiefs are going to sit their starters. So do I want to back Blaine Gabbert playing with terrible receivers against the defense that does give up some big plays? Or do I want to back the Chargers playing for a coach who I would be shocked if they hired Giff Smith to be their head coach full time. I think that might shock me more than any coaching decision in recent memory. So yeah, I don't like either side. I just see them being flat, and it's not like I'm like, ooh, the Chiefs are resting their starters. I get to go with the Chargers and all their talented players. Every talented Charger is kind of hurt for the most part. So you're without all your top receivers, your top quarterback. I mean, you got Austin Eckler out there where they can't run block. So it's kind of like there's no value in this one. I don't even remember which side I picked. Let's see. All right, I put in Chiefs +3. I don't have any conviction in this game. I have 0 units on it. I will not be touching. So go, girl. Give us nothing.
All right. Well, we'll have a big disagreement here. I love the Chargers. No, I'm just kidding. I had the Chargers for 0 units. So yeah, we can see who's right. I have no reason for this. It's just like, do you want to back Easton Stick at -3, or do you want to take Blaine Gabbert? I'll pass. So let's get to the final game. let's do that. But Chefs are not going anywhere for a while. Yeah, everyone's saying that Chiefs are going to lose their first playoff game. I could definitely see that. I guess it depends on who they play, but it's probably going to be Buffalo, right? Well, I guess we'll find out. What do you think? Because we have Buffalo at Miami. This line open up. I want to get this right. This line open up. It says Bills -3. I swear I saw Bills -1.5. and then it went to 3. So that's what I think it was. So it looks like sharp money steaming in on Buffalo. That might be in response to some of the injuries Miami suffered. Tua Tagovailoa hurt his shoulder. Xavier Howard got hurt, and then Bradley Chubb unfortunately tore his ACL. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Bills here, and that would lock if the Bills win, the Dolphins would be locked into the 6th seed, and they'd play the Chiefs, and I think that would be a fantastic game and one where the Dolphins might be able to earn some revenge. But in this spot, I don't like the Dolphins matchup with the Bills. We had this earlier in the year where we were like, this Bills defense is very strong, and we went through a downturn midseason with them because of injuries, but now they're getting healthier. Rasul Douglas has come in and played really well as Tre'Davious White replacement. Terrell Bernard has done an all right job filling in for Matt Milano, and Daquan Jones is back on the defensive line, and the safeties are healthy. So all of a sudden, Buffalo's defense looks a lot better. So they're going to be able to match up pretty well with Miami, get some pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, and just kind of rattle him a bit. We've seen them do that in the past, and I found this fascinating. The Dolphins have played, I think, they played 5 teams that rank top 10 in DVOA this season. They are 1-4 against those teams, and their only win was that 22-20 victory over Dallas a couple weeks ago. And they needed a game-winning field goal to get that, and Dallas had numerous chances to kind of close them out there. So there are some shortcomings with this Dolphins team against upper echelon competition. So, I think some people might look at this and say, "Oh, the Dolphins as underdogs of 3, like that looks kind of appealing." And some people might look and say, "Oh, they're coming off that embarrassing loss to the Ravens. Like, won't they bounce back?" I think maybe against a different team, yeah, but they just don't match up with the Bills, and they haven't played well against elite competition this year. So, or high-end competition, if you don't want to put Buffalo in the elite camp at this point. But I like the Bills. I like what Josh Allen and that offense have kind of transformed into under Joe Brady, going more run heavy and just trying to distribute the ball while minimizing mistakes. Hasn't worked every time, but yeah, I like the Bills. I think there's a reason this line's been steamed up to 3, and I think it's because people are realizing that despite its record and its, really nice looking offense, the Dolphins have some holes and some key injuries right now that are going to prevent them from competing with the top tier teams. So give me Buffalo here for a couple units. I have 1 to 2 penciled in. Could get to 3 if Dolphins O-line injuries are that concerning. And they're without Connor Williams, so that's already one strike against them.
Yeah, it's just like Miami's injuries. It's just like at some point there has to be like it's kind of like crossing the Rubicon, right? With these injuries, it's like I don't know, like Tua's banged up. He's not 100%. Like, and you want to back if you want to take Miami, do you want to back an injured quarterback behind an offensive line missing 2 starters at the very least, maybe 3. And then on the defensive side, they're missing 2 pass rushers. So the pressure rate's not going to be as great. They're going to be missing one of their starting cornerbacks, which is like one of the selling points of their team is that the secondary has been awesome since Jalen Ramsey got there because they have Ramsey and Howard. And so like this Dolphin team is just a mess right now. It's not a surprise at all that the Sharps are betting Buffalo. Like they took them to 1.5 up to 3, and I think like the public might be looking at this, and the public is on. I believe they're on the Dolphins still. If I want to check real quick, yeah. Well, it's about 50-50, but I'm like, if I'm the public, I'm like looking at this like, oh, Dolphins +3. They have the better record. That seems like a good betting angle here. But like, I think it's Buffalo -3 for a reason. There's a reason why the Sharps bet the Bills, as you said. Like the Bills are just the better team right now. Yeah, they've looked a little sketchy past 2 weeks, but they crushed Dallas, whereas like Miami barely squeaked by Dallas. And I know that like you can't really, it's like apples to oranges, like all about matchups in the NFL. But like if you want to, like I feel like the only argument against the Bills is like they've struggled the past 2 weeks to win. Like sort of like against the Chargers, yeah, it was a tight game at the end, but like I felt like that was the Bills just having a letdown from that Dallas game. And then against the Patriots, yeah, they won by 5, but like they surrendered a kickoff return on the first like right away to start the game. So like this 5-point game should have been 12, So and plus they outgained the Patriots like pretty well. So like I wouldn't read too much into what we saw last week. It was pretty fluky with that kickoff return touchdown. And I expect Buffalo to be playing at their top level here, which we've seen is pretty high. And Yeah, having Daquan Jones back is great. As you know, in his second game now, it's going to be a big boost for that team. Russell Douglas is great for them, as you said. Like, just it feels like the Bills are just the better team here, and yeah, like I said, there's a reason why this line's 3.
I'm going to do something that I've been waiting to do all season because I've called the Dolphins overrated for most of the season. Like, there have been a few times where we back them against really bad opponents, but it is now time for me to read the teams that the Dolphins have won in this 11-5 campaign so far. I've been saving this for a very long time.
Nice.
Here are the 11 teams the Dolphins have beaten: the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Giants, the Panthers, the Patriots again, the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Jets again, and the Cowboys. I mean, that is not exactly a who's who list of difficult teams. And I mean, like, who's the second best team on that list? Like, Dallas is probably the best among the teams they've beaten. And then who else? It's probably Denver, but they played them in week 3 when their defense was still terrible and they dropped 70 on them. So
it might be the Patriots in week 2 because that's when the Patriots are healthy and the Patriots like outgained the Eagles by 130 yards in the first game. So it might be that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that, but it's kind of insane if you look at this and you go, I get you could do this for some teams. Like the Cowboys are another team. You can be like, oh, they've really not beaten much of anyone, especially if you're not high on the fact that they beat the Lions by 1 point on some shady officiating and the Eagles being a bad team. But like the Dolphins, their wins versus their losses particularly stand out to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty telling list for sure. And I do think that, like, you know, the Dolphins, they play closely with the Chiefs, you know, for example. So, like, I think they got better in the second half of the year. One, they got Jalen Ramsey back from injury, but the Xavier Howard injury kind of like negates that because they just lose another starting cornerback. So, yeah, just I feel like the Dolphins just way too banged up here. So, we're together on the Bills here. We had a question here from Quacky. He asked, "How can Buffalo get in if they lose?" The Bills can still get into the playoffs if they lose. If the Steelers or Jaguars lose, one of those teams has to lose. If that happens, the Bills still get in with a loss. So we might even know heading into Sunday if the Steelers lose to the Ravens, then the Bills would be in the playoffs. And so like yeah, so the Jaguars could also lose as well. Stephon Diggs has disappeared. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. Stephon Diggs, I keep expecting him to bounce back. Keep playing him DFS for some reason, and he keeps disappointing. I don't know. Just really, really killing my bankroll here at DraftKings. It just sucks. Bills Rams Super Bowl 250-1. I love it. Just put $10 down on that. I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I might have to follow suit on that. That one would be fun too. I would enjoy that.
Yeah, what sportsbook is that, Quacky? Let us know. Okay, so let's see here. What else do we got? McDermott has his team win like a Japanese kamikaze pilot Pearl Harbor.
Oh God.
Yeah, I had to be told what happened there. I completely missed it, but yeah, it's so weird.
That was one of the weirder stories of the year. I was like, what is this? And
yeah,
I don't know, man. John McDermott, sometimes he seems like a guy who just doesn't pick the right thing at times. It's like when he benched Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman. We're all like, why are you doing this? And it was terrible.
Yeah, so bizarre. It was like so weird. Andrew asking, what are the Dolphins doing with Tua this offseason? He's the only quarterback without an extension in this draft class. I mean, he was an MVP consideration for a while. I think he's going to get an extension. But he's had a long injury history. I think that's the main concern with him, not talent. So I think they wanted to see if he could make a full season being healthy, which he did to his credit. So, I think they're going to extend him. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't extend him. Maybe they'll bake in some like injury guarantee situations and stuff, but I think they'll give him a pretty fair market value deal.
Yeah. Oh, Andrew's saying they also lost Jerome Baker. Yeah, that's another one, another big loss. Yeah, this team has just been decimated by injuries. Bills outgained Dallas 351-195. Miami outgained Dallas 375-339 for what it's worth. Yeah. Again, it's like apples to oranges, but obviously, but the Buffalo was so much better against Dallas than Miami was. So, I think there's something to that. Quacky says Hard Rock, the only thing we have in Florida. Yeah, so I don't understand these Florida betting rules. Like, why can't you just bet like on any sports book? So stupid. I hate that. But then again, like, why can't I submit Rainmakers contests in Pennsylvania? It makes no sense. Just let people do what they want. Then again, I'm a super libertarian, so I don't know. I've gone through this spiel before. Prescott felt like a raindrop in Buffalo, though. He felt a raindrop. That's the reason why he struggles so much. So, all right, we have my teaser. We're not going to do Survivor because, well, first of all, we didn't get your Survivor pick last week, and frankly, I didn't think it was worth asking because we both lost multiple games. And then the Survivor pick I had last week was the Eagles. I saved the Eagles the entire year to take against the Cardinals. They lose, so I'm not going to even bother. My Survivor pick is on the site. I can't even remember who I took. I think it was Pittsburgh against Baltimore. So I don't know. And real quick here, Chris says, "All right, let's move on to the Monday game, please." Public all over Washington. Yeah. I mean, we can do that as well. Real quick, national championship game. Who do you have?
As I've said multiple times, I love Michael Penix Jr. and I love what Washington has done this year. So I am a little like part of me wants to take Washington money line and that spread, but I will almost certainly be betting on Michigan in this game because I think their defense is just something that Penix and those guys haven't seen yet. Dylan Johnson got hurt too in that game, and if he's not there, then it becomes really pass heavy for Washington. And I also put a $20 bonus bet on Washington at 7.5 to 1 odds to take home the college football playoff title because I had a 12 to 1 bet on Texas that I made after they beat Alabama early in the year. So I wanted to guarantee myself a long shot there. So I will be hedging with Michigan. That is my long story there. But I will be rooting for Washington for sure.
Yeah, I think everyone's gonna be rooting for Washington. Everyone's betting Washington. I'm gonna be on Michigan. I think they're the better team overall. I don't know. I was like Texas' big win was against Alabama. That was when Alabama was not 100%. I don't know. I think Michigan's the right side, but and just saying Washington's going to win no matter what because if Michigan wins, it will be vacated 5 years later. It's probably true. Yeah, and all right. So last order of business is my teaser. This is my teaser for the week. Bears +9. Again, like not exciting to go 3 to 9 because you can just get the 3. But I didn't really see another leg outside of Arizona +8.5. I think that's an obvious side. I think Kyler Murray should keep that game close. And plus Seattle's not that good. But yeah, I love the Bears anyway, so might as well throw them in. What do you think about this teaser?
Yeah, I love it. Like, if you can't get 2 that go to 8.5, then getting the 9 with the team you love makes a lot of sense. And I really think this is the way to bet Arizona this week is just teasing with whichever other underdog side you like. So yeah, these 2 games I think hit. So I'll probably be betting this right along with you.
Okay, sounds good. That's our final teaser of the regular season. We'll be back for the playoffs next week. But in the meantime, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I will be posting my favorite picks of the week. I will do both Saturday games for sure, my favorite Sunday plays, and probably I'm not changing the Bills pick by any stretch. So you just know that one. So even if I don't tweet that one, the Bills will be my pick there. You can also check out sportingnews.com for all your NFL needs. I wrote a story today about Michael Penix's draft stock, gave a little scouting report in there. I also sourced Charlie Campbell from Walter Football in there when talking about his draft range, just pulling from various sources. So thank you to Charlie for allowing me to do that. But that's over on Sporting News and also on my Twitter. So if you want more info on Michael Penix as he prepared for that national championship game, should be a fun game. Feel free to check that out. And as always, if you have any football related questions or fantasy or betting, send them my way. If I see them, I'll answer them. And yeah, let's keep enjoying the season. Can't believe the regular season's coming to an end here.
Hard to believe. Next time, this time next week, we're going to be talking about the playoffs. So, yeah, kind of crazy how quickly it's gone by. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching and commenting. We had a lot of great comments today. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with Kenny doing the DFS show, final DFS show of the year, the regular season. And then Thursday, we'll be back with Quacky Takes with our Thursday thoughts on the NFL picks. Saturday Notes, which will occur after the two games in the final divorce package of the year. So yeah, so that's our lineup for this week. And yeah, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be really appreciated. And again, we are closing in on 4,000 subs, so please hit subscribe if you haven't done that already. Jacob, it's been a blast doing this to you for the regular season. Can't wait for the playoffs. But yeah, it's let's close out the 2023 regular season with a huge banger with a great week 18.
Yeah, let's do it. 16-0, baby.
Well, yeah, for sure. All right. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good.